I think it's time we grow this dream. Get everybody on the mics together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, podcast.
What is a physical body? It is merely an object. It is a form of existence far too impure to store the podcasts within us called sudden but inevitable. Now you will listen as I introduce myself. I am Captain Bootscoot, aka Vanilla Husband, aka your host Jesse, and of course this is the Sudden But Inevitable Rebop, the podcast where we take two anime-resistant first-timers through one or two episodes of Cowboy Bebop in a given week. Now, I have some very, very, very cool bounty hunters to introduce you to that come along for the ride every week. The first of those, of course, is my lovely co-host and co-pilot at Miss My Armcast, Kylie. Kylie, how has your week been?
It has been a good one. Glad to be here. I am so proud of you for that face. I just died laughing. That was really good. So yeah.
I appreciate that. I'm gotta say right up front, we're very happy to have you back aboard. So,
Thank you.
it was one of those weeks last week. If you listened last week or watched last week, you will know that Kylie wasn't here, and we had some trouble staying on topic. But I think we pulled one out, and I think that we're gonna do much better this week. So thank you for coming. Now, filling out that chair next to Miss Kylie, normally, and of course this week as well, is my good friend, the host of the Twist My Arm podcast, Josh. Josh, welcome to the show, my friend. How are you doing?
I am doing great. I want to apologize for last week. There will be no stalling this week. I promise. Right, Kylie? No stalling.
Right.
Perfect.
That's okay. Now, I'm going to let Josh talk about this, but the Twist My Arm podcast recently hit a really cool milestone, Josh.
Oh, we actually hit 2 milestones. We hit 500 followers on Twitter, which is
Boom.
really cool. And we also hit 1,000 downloads, which for a podcast that's been around for 5 years doesn't seem like too much. But at the beginning of this year, I only had about 111 downloads total from previous things. So obviously my advertising has gotten a little bit better. My partners have been showing me a lot along the way. Thank you, Jesse, for that. But yes, we have hit an amazing milestone of 1,000 downloads this last week. So thank you to everyone that has been a part of that has listened and helped us out along the way. It's awesome. I'm stoked.
Very cool, and congratulations. Of course, that does lead us to our final anime-resistant first-timer, Ricky Heavy Kiff Energy D from Best Flicks with Ricky D is joining us. How are you doing this week, Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D?
I'm doing good. I like a lot of that, the heavy D, and what else did you say? Energy D?
Heavy Kiff Energy.
Yeah.
Remember Kiff last week?
Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D and his Energy D.
His emotional D.
We're workshopping it. Wow. Okay, so are you doing good, Ricky D? You're doing all right?
I'm doing
We're
good.
glad?
I'm doing
Okay.
good.
All
The
right,
episodes were a little bit sad this week. I actually I contained all of my tears into one giant cup, and I'm going to have to get all of that tears and energy back into me.
That's a good call. Recycle the sadness into
Yeah.
productivity.
Salty.
Man, that could be a Best Flicks logo or Best Flicks sound clip. I forgot what you just said. Recover the sadness.
Recycle sadness into productivity.
Recycle the sadness. Yes.
Yes. I smell a
What's
t-shirt.
up, Denver? We'll recycle the sadness.
Wow. We are off to a wonderful start, my friends. And finally, It is my absolute joy and honor, nay, my childish, giddy pleasure, to reintroduce one of our most well-loved guests from season 1 and one of my favorite people in the world, Sean-Luc Piconery himself, Cameron Harrison of Green Shirt, a newbie's trek through the next generation. Cameron, welcome aboard, my friend. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm just here because I've got a lot of debts, and I was told if I come on this podcast, I could get rid of them all.
It's true. That's actually how we got Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D to be on this podcast. But I don't actually know about the mechanics of it, so maybe you could fill me in as we go along.
I'll let you know.
Don't worry
Deeply
about it.
appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited to be here, guys, to talk some Cowboy Bebop with y'all.
It's been a while.
It's been a hot minute. Jesse asked me which episode I wanted, and I watched Cowboy Bebop in college about 20 years ago, and haven't since. I've been watching with you guys. Thank you so much for doing this podcast. So it gave me an excuse to finally rewatch the show, which I remembered loving, but remembered very little about. Except I knew there was one song I loved that I've listened to over and over for the last 20 years. And so I picked the episode with that song, not knowing it was the second to last episode. So I had a long wait, but here I am.
I'm very deeply interested in that, and I think we can definitely wait until we get there because I have like a very huge personal, emotional, musical note on that episode as well. So I'd be interested to see if they line up. And yes, Cameron was one of the first people to actually know that we were going to do Cowboy Bebop for season 2 of our podcast. And I was like, hey, which episode? Like he said, and he said, Hard Luck Woman. And in my head, the only one I could remember was Honky Tonk Woman. So it's like, oh, great. He means that episode right up front. He'll help us reintroduce Sudden But Inevitable. It'll be great. And then I went and looked at the episode list, and I was like, what did I do? Are you avoiding me? Have I offended you? Did you not appreciate the appearance that I put in on your show? I mean, if that's the case, that's fair, but I just need to know, you know. So.
I basically had the same reaction when I looked at the episode list. I was like, oh no!
He's going to think
Will he let me sneak in for an earlier one? I don't know. I didn't want to ask.
Yes, and it's one of those, like, this season, you may have noticed, wonderful listeners and viewers, that we've had fewer guests than we had last season. And mostly that is a function of the busyness of my life as it relates to my work life and how that fluctuates with the changing of the months. So it became significantly simpler for us to just kind of stick with the crew, with the found family from season 1, and, you know, go about it that way for the most part. Now, to that point, that's kind of why Cameron is here. Cameron is part of the found family from season 1. He's one of our more popular episodes on our downloads all time, so we figured, hey, win-win, right?
I just choose good episodes to join for.
It's. I mean, he's not stupid, ladies
Part
and
of it.
gentlemen. Now, before we get any further, and we're going to jump right into these episodes, because Kylie is here and we don't have to stall, we're just going to say hello, we love you, thank you, good morning, good evening, and what is up to live chat. That's Callie D, that's Rosie, that's a couple of other names that I saw in there. And I can't tell you guys, every week we're so grateful to have people here with us live. It means the world to us. And it's sort of the point of the show, right? Is that we're sharing things with our friends and like the people that we really care about. And those people are here in the live chat. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't care about you if you're listening to this as a podcast. It just means that I can't talk quite as directly to you. So if you'd like, join us every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Mountain at youtube.com/twistmyarmpodcast. With all that out of the way, I think it's time to hand it over to Kylie for the first synopsis of the week. Actually, I'm totally wrong. We have more stuff to get through. I'm sorry. First thing that we have to get through is a very special announcement for a very cool friend of the show that everybody knows, actually. So I've been on Cheap Seat. Ricky D has been on Cheap Seat Reviews. Sean has been on Cheap Seat Reviews. Josh has been on Cheap Seat Reviews. Our friend Sean from Cheap Seat Reviews has a very cool son named Declan, and he is turning 9 this weekend. So, as we do here at the Sudden But Inevitable Rebop, we're going to say, happy birthday, Declan. We're very excited for you. We've heard that you like Star Wars and that you're totally allowed to stay up late if you want, I think, is what I heard on your birthday. But I'm not sure if that's true. That's just what I heard. So take that to the bank and don't let your dad get away with it. So we just wanted to say happy birthday and thank
Happy
you, Sean,
birthday.
for thank you, Sean, for making us aware. We appreciate it.
Happy birthday, Declan. 9 is a fantastic age.
It's all
Possibly
downhill.
one of my top 3 favorite ages, so enjoy it, man. 9 is great.
Doesn't get much
Happy
more
birthday.
official than that. Now, the last, I'm saying this trepidatiously because I'm not sure, but the last piece of business that we have is a very cool transmission from a very cool friend and supporter of ours, Sinacera, who is the very good craftsman behind the Cowboy Bebop art you can see on the wall behind me. Josh, if you wouldn't mind, my friend, cue up that video.
Doodly-doo, do-do-do-do. Pew, pew. Take my pod, take my cast, take me where the shows don't last. I don't care, I still see episodes I pay to stream. No more Din, no more Moff, no more take that helmet off. Now that Mando's off Disney, you can watch Firefly with me.
I do want to say that he did have different music behind it when he was drinking, but I had to change it for reasons.
Copyright reasons.
Yeah, which that song that we just played still gets us freaking copyright kicked every time. So I guarantee I'll have to dispute this as well, but at least it won't be officially taken down.
I do have
Very-
to say that the length of the song was just perfect for video.
Yeah. It's like it was made for it. Now,
I
that
know.
that video, of course, features our very cool friend Sinacera, and he's wearing a very cool Sudden But Inevitable Season 1 t-shirt that has tour dates on the back with all of our guests and the dates that they hung out with us during Season 1, in which, of course, we covered Firefly. And the song that you just heard is called The Ballad of Inevitability, and that's the theme song from Season 1 of our podcast. Go check it out. I think you might have heard of it. We're called Sudden But Inevitable.
Ballad
Now-
of
Rosie has that
Inevitability.
shirt. Thank you, Rosie.
Yeah, this
Yay.
is, I don't know about you guys, but I am overflowing with mirth and gratitude already for the evening. So before I bloviate in a way that keeps everyone else from speaking, is it time to hand it over to Kylie? Does anybody else have any? I think.
Ricky.
Oh, Ricky D, go. I'm sorry, Ricky D.
And Josh.
I had a question for Cameron. Are you one of our shepherds of shine from season 1?
I believe I was mentioned as that. I don't know if
Okay.
there's. I mean, I don't have a badge or a tattoo.
Right, sure.
Why
Oh,
not?
you didn't get the tattoo?
You don't have the
Why
We
should I?
haven't. We
Did
haven't
you
really.
not get the memo?
We haven't really come up with anything for our second season to give names to our highly interactive fans and that kind of thing. I threw out an idea way back at the beginning of the season. I'd like to try it again.
Okay.
The
Yes.
entrepreneurs.
I
If we want to try and label a couple of our,
Entrepreneurs isn't bad.
I
It's,
think
your
Right.
biggest issue is that you didn't come up with it though.
Oh, no. It just feels like the obvious one to me. But if everybody is cool with entrepreneurs,
Do you have another suggestion?
I prefer
Entrepreneurs is
connoisseurs
a
of-
lot of things. I don't know if it's obvious.
Right.
as a person who smashes words together like a child at a rate that's probably far too high for his age,
See,
I will
I would just call 'em
concede that.
I would just call them the sudden beboppers.
Well, so I had thought connoisseurs of cool because it's like the whole show's about what's cool and knowing for sure and confidence, and it kind of implies that they know that our show is cool. But I do appreciate, like I said, I love a good smashed together word. So if we want to go with entrepreneurs, we can definitely design a
Or
shirt
I think
or
I
a
vote.
badge.
Or- bodacious beboppers.
Still like on entrepreneurs.
And it would. Okay. Well, I think that's a. Do we have a quorum? I think that's a quorum. Live chat. If you could throw your votes into the chat, I would
Yep.
deeply appreciate that.
Now, and I have something too.
You've corrections, correct?
I do.
Okay. So this is think maybe the first time all season that we've had corrections from more than one person in the same episode, because I have one too that I forgot about. Go ahead, Josh. I'm sorry.
So I have 2 corrections. The first one is last week I said arm wailing and I meant arm flailing.
I
My
appreciate that.
bad.
That means the
I'm
world to me.
sorry. And the other one was for Ricky, who kept calling Ed he.
Did
I
I?
believe I'm going to call you out for that one because we
I-
definitely learned in this week that Ed is a she.
I
Fair, though,
definitely
even
apologize
Ed's
for that.
father was.
I was
gonna
gonna
be-
say, yeah.
That's
I mean,
true. That's true.
Which is the
Ricky's
point
not
we
the
made
only-
the first time this happened to Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D
Yeah.
was, hey, it's gonna happen in the show to the character as well. So
Yeah.
it's Rosie says Beboppers of Shine. That's not bad. I like that.
Mhm.
Cowboys of Cool.
Beboppers is an easy word to design. Oh, Cowboys of Cool is pretty
That's
good.
a good one. I like that.
Callie
One.
D, there's a Twitter voting poll if you want other people to weigh in. Just saying, wow, good shade from Callie D, ladies and gentlemen. We are 17 minutes in and it has begun. So, yeah, call
Pow.
Callie. We can throw the poll up. That's a good call. I think
It's
that's
just-
probably the best way to. Here's the thing. I've mentioned it multiple times and then it didn't happen. I apologize. It's entirely on the captain, and I accept that responsibility.
And Callie's just getting revenge for last week with you. Was it last week where you just were slamming every single, like just all of us, Ricky and I were just getting, it was like layups and NBA
might have
Jam style hoop on fire slam dunks.
I think that was 2 weeks ago, but I
Okay.
I appreciate that. It would be weird if I brought it up, so I thank you for doing that. So, my small correction is last week I called our friend Phil K a sponge of resources, which made it sound like for some reason Phil cost us a lot of money. I meant to say sponge of references because he never misses a reference. So, just wanted to clarify that.
Phil, you mooch.
Yeah, we get filled for free here at Sudden But Inevitable. Now, 19 minutes
he
even.
fills us in.
yeah, there we go. Shirts galore. 19 minutes in, Kylie, please save us from ourselves. Give us the synopsis for our first session of the week, and then the fun
Let's do
facts that you
it.
have to pair with it.
Okay. So session 23, Brain Scratch. Faye goes undercover to collect a bounty on a deranged cult leader, but when the mysterious organization brainwashes her into a very deep sleep, she'll need a little help from her friends. And this one was a little bit short on the fun facts, but I do have to say, I think the obvious thing that everybody went to reference-wise was Heaven's Gate cult with the mass suicide, and that was 1997, which was very, very recent. Very recent when the show was put out, made, stuff like that. So that's about it. For that one.
That one, and there were definitely some Matrix vibes here. Although that one would have been in the opposite direction, where the creators of the Matrix saw this and took that to the bank. So this episode sort of just starts with a guy admonishing us. Like, I don't know. My first reaction was like, "Hey, speak for yourself, guy. Like, why are you so mad at me?" And I didn't do anything. Also, migrate to electronics does not acronymize. The acronym for migrate to electronics movement is not Scratch. So, why do they call it Scratch? Did anybody come up with an idea of why they called it Scratch?
It scratches your brain,
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
like the
that's-
title of the episode, because it scratches your brain and scrambles it or
Aw.
something.
I was also
Super
wondering why
fast.
it focused on the A a lot,
Oh.
like the A on the Earth. And I was like, what's up
Yeah.
with the A? What's so important about A? And then it just became the A in Scratch. But
yeah, and the A wouldn't even fit in the other name for the thing.
I mean, A could symbolize the beginning of, uploading consciousness to robots.
the Alpha.
Is there,
Yeah.
Is there a chance it's just something that they were like, we should translate this into something less provocative? Maybe it's more provocative in the original Japanese.
Well, no, I mean, were the titles in English in the original Japanese or not? Because usually they have both.
Oh, you're right. They probably were, because they did subtitle it even in the sub.
Right.
version of this one.
Ricky's
And I-
shaking his head like he knows. No.
No, I have no
Oh.
idea. I got nothing on this one.
I just rolled with it because at the end of that commercial, I just went like, wow, they nailed late 90s, like late night infomercials. And then I had to remind myself, oh, wait, this was made at that time. They just nailed the commercials of their time.
Yeah.
But either way, it was still really good, even down to that, like, well, those names don't really make sense, but okay.
Well, and that infomercial was so funny because it was very like 90s. The 90s always had these ridiculous inventions, you know, the sham wow and all
As
that.
seen on TV
Yeah,
stuff.
all that stuff. And this one was another ridiculous one. It was, they kept. I'm pretty sure they kept saying, you can be a DJ while you work out.
I want that. Shoot, where'd it go?
Dream
It's
The
like
dream.
something.
Oh, I lost it. The double light. The double light DJ workout machine.
Yeah,
That's
Love
on
it.
my Christmas
you
list.
just pick it while you're running.
I kept waiting for that to come into the episode somewhere because every other commercial like had something to do with the episode, but
And maybe
and
that's
he-
where, because see, Rosie says needle on a record album goes off course and makes a scratch. Maybe that's the whole point, is that in that infomercial, you're becoming a DJ and learning how to scratch records properly.
yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, we could do that.
That's what the whole.
Um,
That's the whole
The
thing.
whole meaning of this episode is to learn how to DJ properly.
Well, it did seem to imply that you could drive a car by dancing. Like put this thing on and then dance around, and any video game will be correctly controlled. Like sort of.
Oh,
by
the
magic? I
dream
don't-
machine or that's a
Yeah.
different device.
Oh, okay. Sorry, are we
The
talking about
PSVR that they were using.
Oh, you guys are talking about okay.
The virtual boy.
Apologies. Yes. And that, I just want to buy something from David Blakely like yesterday. That guy was like he was exactly correct for an infomercial, like you said, Cameron, and they were like, that was the most American name they could come up with. David Blakely.
Oh, yeah.
So it was, I almost like wanted to turn off the lights and go get some chips just to like max out the immersion. Like, you know what? If I'm gonna watch this, I should be depressed. There shouldn't be
You should
anyone
also
around.
drink like 7 Mountain Dews, kind of
Just
thing.
have a bunch of cans
Oh.
laying around you.
I actually don't drink Mountain Dew.
Me either.
I don't drink soda at all, but I don't think that was the
Yeah, that's-
point.
Oh,
You switch
She
sodas
wasn't trying
to-
to tell people about like your drinking
Oh.
habits, Jesse. It's
It's
a bit.
I drink soda, but I don't drink
Wow,
Mountain Dew.
Jesse
It's a
just
bit.
ruined that.
It's well, it wouldn't work for me because in the bit I would be not drinking Mountain Dew. So.
It's not funny because it doesn't really. Okay.
Yep.
I told you before, the jokes get funnier once they've been explained.
Did you guys notice that-
right.
Did you notice that Spike made Burial?
Yes.
I was wondering what that. Well, does that mean Ed made Muriel, or did
I
she
think
have a
Ed
Mountain
was-
Dew?
I think she was pretty.
Mountain Durial?
I think she was pretty clearly using
All
milk.
jacked up
Oh,
Mountain
okay.
Dew.
But yes, but is that what he was eating? Is that what Spike was eating? I thought maybe it was like noodles or something.
I
But it
couldn't
did.
Yeah,
tell.
because wasn't Jet was cooking like stir fry before that in the scene before that, right?
Was that before that?
I think so.
It's
Because
so difficult.
he's cooking stir fry when Spike calls him in to see Faye on the TV.
Oh yes, and yeah, that's a good call. I did really love the shots of Ed eating, and I have to ask you, Josh. I know that anime eating was on your list of pet peeves at the start of the season.
It's still there.
Still, despite the ultimate
just-
adorability of Ed, really.
No, it's adorable, sure, but like it still
Adorable,
annoys me.
Sure. Wow.
Well, I bet you loved in the next one where they're shoving hard-boiled
Just
eggs.
eggs in their mouth.
Like,
Oh
what-
my
That
god.
was just really. I was like,
That was
what?
hardcore. Oh, jeez. But I mean, that's also a reference to something else too. But
yes.
no, it I don't really pay attention anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Because
No.
there's always going to be the little tropes that
Oh,
that's
gotcha.
going to annoy me. But
You're
I just
not looking for the small things.
I've moved
to
past
bug you.
them
Gotcha.
and enjoyed them and enjoyed everything. So
Callie D in the chat makes a great point. If Ed can't heal Josh, no one can. So, all right, we cannot talk about this episode without talking about. We could, but it would be stupid. We can't not talk about The Matrix and Ghost in the Shell and any other movies where a brain gets downloaded into a computer. Cameron, go.
Oh shoot! Matrix. Matrix Reloaded.
You're cheating.
Matrix
Matrix
Revolutions.
Revolutions,
Lawnmower Man.
Wait,
Matrix
Lawnmower Man.
Resurrections. Now,
Lawnmower Man 2.
if
Ricky
anyone
D.
saw,
didn't Shinichiro Watanabe write the Animatrix? Or he was highly involved.
One
with
of them.
Right?
One of them.
one of
probably,
the
at
one of the
least.
episodes, yeah.
I forgot about Animatrix. That's a classic.
That's a thing.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like there was a previous Cowboy Bebop episode about this. Was there not? Or
Yeah.
it was the
I mean,
chess thing, kind of.
maybe
Well,
it was
yeah,
just
Is that
the
what I'm thinking of?
chess.
The old satellite AI became.
And that's maybe it was
sentient.
that.
Rosie says Upload, which I believe is a
Oh.
more recent movie.
Wasn't there that
What about-
Johnny Depp one, Transcendence?
Transcendence. I almost watched that today.
Eternal Sunshine could probably be considered that.
You should have, so we could.
I seriously should have.
Today.
Wait a minute, Josh, did you not watch a movie today?
I did watch
Oh,
a
we
movie
did,
today.
just not Transcendence.
It was Chaos Walking though. Pretty terrible movie.
Ghost in the
I-
Machine?
In the
Oh,
shell?
yeah.
Oh
No,
no,
Ghost in the
No,
Machine
Ghost in
is
the
different.
Machine.
You're right. You're
It's
right.
different.
What about that
Different.
Ready Player One garbage?
Oh, how
that
dare
was
you.
more like it's Ricky. You've offended our guest and he's leaving. Well done, Josh. Way to offend our guest.
I apologize. I'm
On that, wow, that's penance right there, ladies and gentlemen. Now,
Josh is allowed his opinions.
Now,
as
here's the
wrong as
thing.
they are.
Kylie's
Here's
like,
the
no,
thing.
I'm gone.
there's something about the movie that was a little bit soulless, and I think we've discussed this on another episode. Now, we're talking about Ready Player One. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm not saying the source material is bad. I'm saying there was something about the movie that struck me personally as a little bit soulless. I didn't say it was a bad movie.
Me
I
too.
don't begrudge the movie for existing. I think Josh dislikes it slightly more than I do.
Wasn't it a Spielberg movie? We don't need to go on that.
We
It doesn't
did.
matter.
Yeah.
I retract that question. Cowboy Bebop.
So how did you guys see this interstitial screen in here? You know how sometimes they put the screen where there would be like a commercial. They'll just show the title card Cowboy Bebop and then they'll cut to black.
Mhm.
The interstitial screen on this one was really uncomfortable, and it was like 3 seconds long, but it kind of like irked me a little bit because it was like that scratchy handwriting, and it was like a high pitched sound. It was.
I have a
Yeah.
question for maybe Kylie for this, or if anyone knows, because I went to the Cowboy Bebop wiki to prepare for this podcast, and in the plots, I think that they refer to that as an eye catch.
Yes.
Does anyone know about that and why it's called that?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, Jesse, go ahead.
I was just gonna say,
Someone,
my,
please.
my assumption has been throughout my rewatch of this series is that it's basically just their word for a cold open. Like, sometimes, for example, Star Trek will do that where they'll have a little thing and then they'll play the credits. But
Well, it's
I
not
guess-
the cold open; it's the midway point.
right, it's like a.
It's
you're-
supposed to catch
that
you
piece
while
is
you're
called the eye
flipping
catch?
through.
Oh, gotcha.
It's while you're
Mm, okay.
most TV shows have commercials around the same time. So when the other show goes to commercial and you start flipping around, they want to put that title card there for either 1 second or 3 seconds in this episode, and you'll go, "Oh yeah, Cowboy Bebop. I'll stop here."
Gotcha.
I
thought
like
you
it.
were talking about that first clip before they show the session title. My bad. But I think Ricky D nailed it. That's got to be
Well,
it, right?
It's got to be like the graphics. You learn it in like graphic design school where you have to put that big eye catch pop in the front
Mhm.
to catch someone's attention because then they're going to read what's directly below it. And then, so it's like it's something to basically just catch people's attention.
I just hadn't heard that term used for it, but good. Yeah, I think that's right.
Now, the cool thing about it is, so if you were watching this back in the day on Adult Swim,
Mm.
Adult Swim's bumpers were always black, right? So this would fit perfectly in there because they cut to black and then they have that black background with the eye catch on it. I mean, it all would flow just beautifully well. I could definitely deal with that. Callie D says, I'm just going to hide over in the corner and not say what I think about Ready Player One. I don't know if Josh has the power to block me from the chat. Josh would never do that to you, Callie D. I promise.
Also, does that mean you agree with me or disagree with me?
I think most people fear banishment from disagreement, not from
Oh,
agreement. But
that's fine. Everybody disagrees with me all the time. I'm wearing a Colorado Rockies hat. Worst team in the league.
he's easy to disagree
And
with,
she's wearing a
folks.
jersey. We're the worst.
We just found the middle part of Josh's intro title, ladies and gentlemen. Easy to disagree with, the head of the Twist My Arm Network. So this game system, this VR game system, is kind of like that game from that Star Trek episode called The Game, where everyone plays that game, except here
It's a good episode.
Wesley is a Wes Corgi. How about that for a tie-in?
That's the sex game, huh?
That's one.
It's
I don't think I've seen that episode.
Oh,
damn it.
dude.
No, yes, you have.
I've seen like one where they play like the chess ball game with the fingers.
Well, here's the thing, Cameron. I've been attempting
know.
to spoil an episode of Next Generation
tried.
for you this whole season. Like every time that I'm like, oh, this is like that exact thing, it's an episode you haven't seen. So I apologize, but there's an episode called The Game where they have a game and they play it in a very similar way.
You just ruined my entire podcast. I
It's
can't
like-
finish it now.
I know.
I
Oh,
basically
man.
know everything that happens in that episode now.
It's incredible. They moan every time they get something like good in the game. Like they accomplish something. Oh man!
it's-
once
it's a
you watch
similar
it,
neural
you're gonna
thing.
be able to reference back
I've
to this
seen that one,
episode.
yeah.
Be like, oh my
I think
god.
Josh is
Like,
actually trying to spoil it now, though.
no, I'm
He
not.
is.
I'm done now. I'm done saying anything.
But it's just that same like
Oh, it's wonderful.
idea of like the neural link to a game. So
Well,
but yeah,
maybe
ahead.
I'm just too old here, but I mean, there's some big video game people here. You guys know your video games. Mad respect. Are you too young to have experienced the Virtual Boy? Because my God, I always wanted to,
Oh,
but
no.
never had the chance to put
I
on.
played the demo Virtual Boy at Sears long enough that
Oh.
my eyeballs fell out and we had to. It was a small emergency.
One of my
Those aren't your
friends-
natural eyes, Ricky D.
No.
One of my neighborhood friends had one, and so we were always at his house playing it. And yeah, it was awful for sure.
It was so
I
bad.
To say the
assume.
least. Like,
a kid in my neighborhood that I was friends with by proxy, right? Like he was friends with somebody I was friends with, owned one, and I think I played it twice. And I believe it was Mario Tennis, which was already like, I don't care about Mario Tennis, but I guess it's sort of 3D. That's cool.
Please.
Like, I mean,
If I'm going to
it is
immerse
cool.
myself in a video game, it must be Mario Tennis. That's the world I want to live in.
Yeah.
So had it been Mario Kart, now that would have been a different story. But I don't know if they had it for Virtual Boy. But yeah, it was one of those like it was very very small. Callie has watched Ready Player One 4 times at least, and she
I've
really
probably
enjoyed
seen it more than that.
and I said that's okay. I like some pretty bad movies myself, so everyone has their opinion.
I don't even
Because-
love it that much. I just I mean, I like it. I just
Well, and we've spoken before, like how every movie that Josh and Kylie do mention that for some reason they just watch is like under 5.0 on Rotten Tomatoes, which
Always
again is not an objective way to measure a movie's quality. It's just funny that it happens to line
Very
up
true.
that way.
Always.
Now, have you guys ever gotten lost in a video game like this? Let's start with Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D, then we'll go Cameron, Josh, and Kylie. So Ricky D, I'm talking no life mode. I'm talking you should be doing other things, but you're ignoring your responsibilities. I'm talking fully immersed in a video game. Lay it on me.
Well, Diablo 2 Resurrected is coming out at the end of this month, I believe. And when the original Diablo 2 was on PC, I stayed up until about 5 a.m. playing it every night. It was awful, but I kicked a lot of ass.
Nice.
Lost. I mean, sure. Final Fantasy, I remember, was like one of the first ones that, like, I think I got it for Christmas, and my parents didn't see me for the rest of my Christmas break because I just like made a nest on the recliner and played that game, and I still think didn't even beat it then. The Fallout games and the Elder
Yeah.
Scroll games. I mean, I would go over to friends' houses to spend the night, and we would just be in the basement playing, like the original Elder Scrolls. What was it? Daggerfall, I think.
Yes.
Just till the
Now-
wee hours of the morning. The parents would have to come down and or they'd wake up and come down and be like, "Well, here's your breakfast."
Our lore master Phil is not in the chat as far as I'm aware this evening, but if I'm not mistaken, Daggerfall was actually the second Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah.
And I have
Arena.
no idea.
Arena
Yeah,
was the
there
first.
it is.
There you go. You guys
We
got
played
there before
both.
me
We
'cause
played both
I
on the
wouldn't have
base
known
one.
it. I would not have gotten there at all. So yeah, Josh, what about you?
There's plenty of games that I've gotten lost in. Metal Gear Solid, played that for a long time, and for some reason I played the first one over and over and over and over
It
again.
was good.
It's like to the point where I had all the special stuff. Like I had beat that game without killing anyone. It was pretty bad, but that was one of those like stay up all night drinking a ton of whatever citrus drop or whatever
Mountain Dew.
surge.
How did we get a Mountain Dew runner going? I am not the like Kylie. Have you ever gotten lost in a video game, my friend?
Yes, and oddly enough, it's the dot hack games based off of the anime, and basically the
cool.
what dot hack is about is somebody playing a virtual reality game and getting stuck in it.
Oh, and that happened to you.
Well, no, like I just mean that, like,
Well, I said no life,
it's
like
very immersed.
playing too much and this, that, and the other thing. Did you not?
No,
Or,
no,
or do
like,
you
I
have
mean, like-
self-control?
Like, no, I think that I'd like this game is actually a person getting stuck in the virtual reality.
Yes, fully understand.
Oh, okay,
Fully
okay.
Understand. Was
I
it-
might be
okay.
lost.
Currently, I am stuck on Marvel Future Revolutions. I woke up early today and watched the episodes and wrote out all my notes and got this like video thing going by like 9 o'clock so I could sit on the couch and play my mobile game for 8 hours.
He's not lying. It's been all over the Twist My Arm Network group chat. Everybody's like, Marvel game, Marvel game. So
I
Dude.
tried that
probably all
game.
have it.
It kind of sucks.
Well, I'm going to take
See
that
ya.
to the bank. I'm going to... And you just got took to the bank, too. Kylie, I didn't mean to step on
He's
your,
gone. He's
your
gone.
explanation of dot hack. I was trying to imply that you actually probably had better self-control than the rest of us and were able to step away from a game before it became an addictive problem with you, knowing that it would be too meta because the game you're talking about has the anime where they get stuck in it. So I
Yes.
apologize for the poorly constructed setup. That was definitely on me. Callie D in the live chat says, "Oof, the worst I've had that with was the MMORPG RuneScape back in the day. I almost had to repeat a year in school because of it. Just as well, my mother is not in the chat tonight.
Oh my god.
That is...
I remember RuneScape.
All my loser cousins played RuneScape.
Yeah.
Ricky, why do you
Jeez.
hate- why do you hate Joy so much?
You're like friends with the wasps, huh? You just wake up and choose hate every day.
Choose
I'm
violence.
sure them being losers and
chooses
them
me.
playing RuneScape was not connected.
Yeah, that was probably a
Yeah.
coincidence.
It's a link that I've
Jeez.
drawn.
I know somebody who just took a Best Flicks with Ricky D hat out of their cart on the Twist My Arm Network shop,
Yeah.
I
I'm
think.
gonna say took a dump in it.
I don't know if it's been purchased, but you're right. They do have multiple uses. Go to twistmyarmpodcast.com, click on the shop tab, and you will find all of our products from all of our cool podcasts there.
Which, by the way, this month until the 30th, if you use the code SHINY15, you'll get 15% off all your orders. That's for the Sudden But Inevitable shop. You'll have to check out all the other shows to get their codes.
But they all have codes. That's the
They all
coolest
have
thing.
codes. Or
There's
go to my
discounts
Twitter and just see
everywhere.
my pinned tweet, and you'll see all the codes right there, too.
At
If
Twist
you
My
want to be a
Arm Cast.
cheater.
Or
Yeah.
if you would like to spend your money at our store, please feel free. Now, is Ed wearing one of Faye's dresses all clipped up here when they go to lie about being the family of this guy? Is that a Faye dress? Is that one of the ones that we've seen her wear?
It kind
I
of looks
guess
like
they-
Kaylee's dress.
You right? Right,
A little bit,
totally.
a little bit.
I actually was wondering the same thing though. I was like, where'd this dress come from?
Chet took her to buy something pretty.
It was, and it was, I mean, it was ill-fitting, but it was super cute. Am I right? It was like one of the cutest things ever.
She
personally.
was like a 4-year-old girl playing dress up too. She was
Yeah.
just so happy with herself.
I loved it. Oh,
That's
Rosie.
okay.
Talk about your deep cuts, Rosie in the live chat. I had a severe hand cramp from Duck Hunt. That is cool. I respect that deeply.
That damn dog.
Why is he gonna laugh at me? Like, I
Such
don't
a-
know
What
him.
a
I didn't.
jerk.
I didn't
That
do
dog
anything.
taught
rude.
children across the world hate.
Ricky D, how much of that game did you play as a kid?
Which game?
Duck Hunt.
Oh, quite a bit.
I actually totally.
His dog was the dog was his favorite character, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That all ladies and gentlemen, if you ever start a podcast, I hope you get you a Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Nobody does a bit like he. Now, this kid, who is a criminal mastermind, I guess, he, you know what? We're going pretty quickly. Let me take a moment here and do the spot check where I go. Does anybody feel like I've skipped over something they wanted to talk about? Let's start with our wonderful guest, Cameron, and then we'll go Ricky, Josh, and Kylie.
Well, you're in like the last 5 minutes of the episode, Jesse. So yes, the answer is yes.
Go ahead.
But
Yeah,
I
I
don't,
got
I
a
don't
lot
even
of
know
it.
where to begin. Well, I wanted to ask, did anyone visit the Scratch website?
I tried to screenshot it and then write
Oh.
it, but my child was yelling, so I did not. Did you?
Don't worry. No, yes, I did. There's nothing there. It doesn't work. It's not even a real.
Oh.
It's not even a real address. I was like, maybe this will work. No,
Yeah, I
That would have
hope
been pretty
so.
cool.
it would have
Now-
been.
Nowadays, there is some sort of law, right, that was, I believe, famously exploited on Late Night with Conan O'Brien, where if he says a fictional website name on the air, NBC had to purchase that domain because of something.
Copyright issues, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
So he would so that somebody else couldn't copyright it and then go, you need to pay me royalties from that episode the other day.
Right.
So he would just say like ridiculous things and they would have to buy those domains, right?
I love that.
So this
Conan.
episode of TV probably came out before that law existed.
I'm sure
This
it
was
did. Yeah.
Fittingly, the wild frontier of the internet days back in 1998.
It's dial-up days.
Man. And that might
Ooh,
be
the
why
era
they
of chat rooms.
Yeah. And that might be why they assumed that all television would remain channel-based and terrestrial even into the future, because they were
Yeah.
already at the internet. They were like, oh, those will never merge. So
I do love when cartoons do TV effects and like the scan lines and everything. I love when like cartoons emulate old TV. For some reason, that's just an aesthetic that like speaks to my heart. I also
Yeah.
probably spent way too much time writing down all the channel numbers and trying to find any sort of connection there. I failed at that. What I did notice, the only thing that I did notice is I do love how like the numbers keep getting higher and higher. So it feels like you're getting deeper and deeper into, I don't know, the mind of this Londus or the Matrix or whatever. It also kind of means like, at least, you know, when I had actual TV and not just streaming services, like the higher the channels went, like the more weird and like niche and esoteric they got. And so that's what I kind of like we're getting into like the weirder and weirder kind of
Like
channels.
Canadian Nickelodeon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I also love that like Big Shots was the
Was
second
that
to
Noggin?
highest channel we went. Like, yeah, there's what, a handful of bounty hunters watching this channel. No wonder it went off the air.
yeah,
I loved
and it
this
had-
shot. I loved when dude photo bombs. That's got to be the first photo bomb of like ever, right?
Well, and the one channel that they surfed past where the very cheery woman in a pile of stuffed animals went, our channel has very strict standards that keeps you from watching any sort of program like the one that you're watching right now.
Yeah, such a.
I was so confused. That's definitely something you would find on channel 212.
Well, and in their heads, right, to that point of the terrestrial TV, in their heads, the channels would eventually just go up and up and up and up and up, right? Like there would never be, you know, channel 9-2, and it's the
Mhm, mhm.
HD version of channel 9, and there wouldn't be sub channels or decimal channels, that kind of thing. It would just go into the hundreds. And yeah, there is a lot about this show that is quintessentially 90s, but I just feel like the last few weeks they've been really laying it on thick. Maybe it's the baseball references, the Betamax references, of course. Did you guys notice that the remote control, in air quotes, for the Betamax player is plugged into the Betamax player?
Oh, I had one of those remotes.
Oh,
Oof.
man.
Brutal.
I have never seen a Betamax machine before in person, but there's a museum not far from where I live, so there's a chance that I might get to see one someday. Any other notes, Cameron?
I do, but I can wait. I can give other people a turn.
Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Have you got anything you feel like we skipped?
I want to echo what Callie is saying in the chat. Jet was about to get hypnotized. He was on his way there, and then Ein stepped in, bit him, and brought him out of it. So
Mhm.
Ein has a lot more effect on the crew than one would really think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that
And
now.
I immediately seemed to notice the effect on Jet.
Mhm.
Like,
Well, I got
had
the
that-
sense that there's like a high pitched squeal that only dogs could hear.
Ooh.
Yeah.
yep.
Oh.
And
I
as
also-
soon as they put it on his face, or I think Ein is labeled as a male dog, but as soon as they put it on Ein's face, I was immediately like kind of uncomfortable, but like it was
Mhm.
super cute. So sorry, go ahead, Cameron.
I did want to know what Ricky D thought of them like rewarding Ein saving the day by making him a test hamster, basically.
Yeah, right.
I just love that Jet said he fanged me. I'm like,
Yeah.
I love that
Fanged.
turn of phrase. That's what I'm going to say whenever I talk about biting. I'm just going to be like, yeah, he fanged me. The kid fanged me.
Banged.
My my lovely, wonderful, beautiful, kind, patient mother-in-law has this really adorable game with my daughter where she goes, "I'm gonna nibble your fingers," and now my daughter is playing that game in reverse and has no pressure control with her lower jaw.
Mm.
So yeah, great game. We're working on calibration there. Ugh, it just, man, Josh and Kylie, do you have any points that you feel like we've jumped past?
I don't.
Man, I feel like we kind of skipped over the cancellation of Big Shots
Yeah.
and
Too
how
sad.
Judy just kind of like turns into a badass all of a
Oh
sudden.
yeah, her personality, her accent
Yeah.
is gone.
She just punches dude in the
My
face and she's
agent.
like, yeah,
Gotta hear about this.
yeah.
I mean, they've been
Um,
shrinking her shirt every week for the past 24 weeks to the point
It's
where it's
true.
barely there. I'd
Maybe
be
she's just
angry
been
too.
growing.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's well, and yeah, I kind of thought I got heavy Faye vibes immediately when her voice changed. My agent will hear about this, and it made me wonder: are they voiced by the same voice actor? I didn't look it up because you may have noticed a running theme here tonight where Cameron does like a bunch of preparation and research and really gets all the details, and the rest of us are like, I feel this way about an episode because I was happy, which is not a bad thing. It just, I mean, if you like well researched, detailed, thoughtful, put together things, we can do that without the first three things. But you could listen to Cameron's podcast, Green Shirt, and get that every single week. Just saying, just throwing it out there.
We're not that well researched. I do it more for guest spots because I got to prove
Isn't he the
myself.
best?
Got to prove myself. Don't you guys think that this was a weird episode to cancel Big Shots on, like the fourth to last episode? Why not do it
No.
on the last episode
I think
and then
I
make
think
it
this
mirror
was
the show it's in?
I think this was preparing for the end, especially with the next episode. Like there was just a lot of ending things here, and I think this one they started with Big Shots. The next one they did their big ending with some characters, and then I feel like, I mean, there's a 2-part season finale, so I obviously haven't seen that yet, and I have no idea what's going to happen. But I would think that there's some more exits. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, cats fighting.
Banging each other.
Can you
So-
hear the god awful noises they make in the background? Okay.
We are not hearing it at all, and I'm deeply grateful for it.
No, it just
I-
seems like Josh is yelling at a poltergeist.
Yeah, I hope everything is okay. Now, to that point, though, this is the first part. This is the first instance of the show going, hey, you know this part of the show that you always smile at and makes you feel good? That's done. And you're like, okay, that feels unfair. And then to Josh's point, you get to the next episode, and now you're like kind of starting to furrow your eyebrows at this TV show. Like,
Well, and especially with this one, there was a really cool scene with Jet and Ed, where Ed was like, "I want to put on the virtual reality headset," and he's like, "No, if you get lost in there, who's gonna do all of our internet stuff?" And she's like, starts crying about it, and he's like, "Quit whining," and she's like,
Okay.
All right.
that
better
was
now.
pretty cool.
"Like there's a respect there for for Jet that Ed has that, like it's got to have been developed since she came aboard. So it makes the next episode even more.
I guess on that note, I think I'd like to add that, with that dress she was wearing and she's going up into the hospice or whatever with Jet. I mean, it's kind of a little foreshadowing that she actually meets her real dad in the next one, and it's like, "Daddy, Daddy," just like so over the top. It was kind of ridiculous, but it's cute.
It's sort of, it's very impactful how much feeling we get for this character with almost no development up to this point, right? Like most of the characters' appearances have been for comfort and humor and softness and positivity, which is excellent, and we love her for it. But she starts having to work a little harder and go along on some dangerous missions and do these things. And she was kind of on her own in the desert a few episodes back, and it's like, okay, there's some growth going on here, and that's definitely, I don't know, there's a lot of metaphors going on in this episode, right? There's the mastermind of this episode, for instance, is also a kid. They are, in a vegetative state, of course, but when it happened, the kid was pretty young from the looks of it. I would say close to the age of Ed. And he built this fantasy world, right? And then he goes and lives in it. And Faye and Ed, you could argue, are two characters who have been doing that for most of the series as well. They're like sort of living in a next to reality, not always in reality, right? And this episode has so many layers of reality, and for Faye to go in there undercover and then get taken over anyway, it was like, yeah, there's a lot of pieces to it. Callie D in the chat perhaps put it best when she said, "Cowboy Bebop made me sad this week." That's rough. So
Yes.
the last thing that I noted about this episode was that the kid's manifesto definitely reads like it was written by a kid. Like there's some petulance in there, and there's some anger, and there's some I want this, and I think things should be this, and not fair that, and sort of a thing. But there's definitely some solid points in the dialogue between he and Spike. And there's some. That's kind of what I was asking earlier. Did you ever get lost in a game and stuff? Because he talks about how so much information all the time can be desensitizing. And think about it, guys. This is 20 years ago, 30 years ago, like 20 years ago. So the amount of information people were getting 20 years ago already felt like too much to a lot of people, apparently. And
I believe it was exactly 20 years ago this week that Cowboy Bebop debuted on Adult Swim.
look at that.
On Thursdays. Yep.
So we're a day late, but in some time zones, that's exact.
Yes. Granted, this show actually came out in '99 in Japan, but the dubbed version was released this last week. The first episode came out.
Very cool.
So I want to go back to something Josh brought up last week, which was well, but the subtitles I've noticed recently have been a little off. There was, as you said, there has been a lot of S-bombs, and at least in the past 6 or so episodes, they always change them to dams for some reason in the subtitles.
Really?
I think they do it in the next episode.
Yep.
But here is my favorite caption mistake, where very early on when Spike calls for Jet, what's he call him, Ricky D?
Jeff.
Yep, I noticed that, and I was like, wait,
What?
did I miss something?
At this point, I kind of want to think that they're outsourcing the caption creation. So whoever is doing these captions probably has nothing to do with the Cowboy
Well, no, they
Bebop
just watch the
studios.
episode and write the captions, but to get the name of the main character wrong.
Now
That
it
was
could
funny.
be that they left the captions from the original DVD rip, right? Because they could have just pulled that file off and streamed it. But in that case, it's a 20-year-old mistake, But do you guys, are you saying that his name is not Jeff Black? I've been under the impression that it was Spike and Jeff the whole time. Is that not his name?
I got nothing.
That was funny.
My name is Jeff.
Jeff. Good old Jeff.
I'm really grateful that there's nobody named Jeff in this television show about space bounty hunters. Wow.
My name's Spike. My name is Jeff.
That's nobody's afraid of a bloke called Jeff.
No, they would be if they looked like Jet.
That's true. Go
Who,
ahead.
let's talk about, is an amazing actor between this and last episode.
Yeah.
Like,
True.
Jesse and I were talking earlier about last episode. I want a whole spin-off just about, like, Jet going undercover, being a hippie.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like suddenly, I just kind of wish we had, like, spent more time with this side of his character the whole time. He must have been, like, a great undercover cop back in the day, is where he honed those skills. Or maybe he's just, like, a suffering, like, he always wanted to be an actor, and his parents made him get into law enforcement.
He's a closet thespian.
Well, and he's you guys, every week I have like just so much trouble picking out a show title because there are so many bangers dropped every week. Now, the thing about that was like it makes me go, how old is he? Because he seems to have this huge history, but he's also still spry and like kicking ass all the time. But like, he had the suit, and I don't think it was the same suit because the suit in the last episode I think was white.
It was very similar, I did notice, but
It was like kind of a
wasn't sure.
lemony, like kind of off-white. I didn't like it as much, but maybe Jet is just so chill because he used to do the undercover work, like because it's like last week when he was undercover for no reason. Like Andy doesn't know who you are and doesn't know what your voice sounds like, so you don't have to do a fake voice around him. I think there is definitely something to the theory that Jet is a closet thespian. Did you guys have anything else from the first session this week before we move into the synopsis for the second session?
I love the extremely relatable scene with Jet in the store waiting for a video game, surrounded by kids, just pissed.
Yeah, he.
I actually have a picture of that.
I
he's
don't
so upset.
I don't buy consoles on release for that reason. Like, it's mostly for that reason. Because it's like, I don't want to be around that many people for that long just
Yep.
to maybe not get the thing that I am there to get. That's
Yep.
It sounds like a lot of snot.
It's
So,
yeah.
what would have been coming out console-wise around 1998? Would that have been...
N64.
Yeah, I was going to say 64,
I thought
probably.
the N64 came out in '96.
That's around 98.
CD was
Yes.
like 96, 97, I think, too.
I'm the only person that's ever actually owned a Sega CD.
No,
Wrong,
Ricky
I had
D,
one.
My favorite video game of all time was on Sega CD.
Was it Panzer Dragoon?
It was Lunar, the Silver Star story,
Oh.
for the 5 other people out there that know it. But I swear that in that Brain Dream commercial, those were images from Sega CD. They looked like straight Sega CD games I had played.
They did. I have never played a Sega CD, but I have played emulation of them in a 100% legal way. I would like to say hello to our friend Roy, the intrepid DM in the chat. He says, I'm here, I'm late, but I love you guys. Fact check. Thank you for being here, Roy. We appreciate it. We were just talking about old games and trying to get a console in a room full of children also trying to get a console that just released. And Josh, did you have any other points for this episode?
That just, I mean, the cult aspect. They were really driving that cult thing home. Just got to make sure you pronounce your body, and then we'll cleanse your soul. Good Lord!
Well,
Who?
was anyone else?
What? Who does? Who like goes? Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah.
Well, was anyone else waiting to see what? Because like they kept telling Spike that. I was like, I can't wait to see the scene where Spike has to get his soul cleansed. What's it gonna be? And we never see it.
Well, and I would imagine that it was that process that had started happening to Jet, right? Like when they say cleanse your soul, they
Oh,
mean, like,
maybe.
turn you into.
Well, they say it's the first thing, so I assume Faye had her soul cleansed because she was in the room with them all.
possible, and she was. It does seem like maybe it wasn't permanent unless he wanted it to be permanent. There's some fuzzy areas. Fuzzy reception tracking VHS, old television.
Static in a dark room, super creepy.
It all and no kidding, right? How creepy was that room full of TVs?
All right, always a static TV in a dark room is so creepy.
Man, I was like, we need to go shoot a music video in there right now. but I am not in a band, so
I went to a concert actually a couple years ago that they had a bunch of old school TVs on the stage, and it like when they came out, it was all static. It was really cool.
oh, that is very cool. And our friend Roy in the chat has a fact check update for us. September 29th, 1996 was Nintendo 64 in America. Well done, my friend Josh.
But on the cult thing, the vibe
Suck
I
it,
kept
Ricky.
getting was L. Ron Hubbard, Dianetics, that sort of thing. Like even more so than Heaven's Gate, just because like Dianetics was the one like those were the late night commercials I always saw that like that opening commercial reminded me of the volcano and the. Am I saying the right word? Dianetics? Am I going to get
I believe
a
that
go
was
around
right.
mistake on this later? Okay. Yeah, so that's what I thought. Also, doing some research for this, do you guys know what the L stands for in L. Ron Hubbard?
The Who,
Larry?
the Her.
Uh,
I don't.
Lafayette. Lafayette. If my name was Lafayette, I would not go by L
Yeah.
because
lived
that's
go
I lived
by-
on Lafayette.
an
Street.
amazing name. Anyway,
We did used
just
to live on a Lafayette Street.
sidebar.
French general? Question mark? Maybe is why we have a lot of stuff named after
Yes.
Lafayette in America.
Yes.
Maybe. So if no one has any other notes from the first session for this week, put your finger up in the sky.
If
All
I
right.
do or don't,
If you do.
I do.
Oh, go ahead, Cameron.
Well, you'd mentioned it, but I was really struck by how often this show has dealt with the themes of age, specifically like people not being the age they seem. We've had the kid with the mind of an adult. We've had an adult with the mind of a kid. Here we have a kid posing as an adult. You even got Faye, who is much older than she appears.
Who meets her graduating class that's
Yeah.
like 90
Much older
years
than
old.
she is. Yeah.
Uh,
I don't know. It just seems to be a theme they return to a lot in the show.
Ed's age is extremely ambiguous, I feel like.
I think they said 13 at one point, right? Or maybe you
She's-
guys have said 13.
She's explicitly 13, but she is definitely more mature than 13, and she's got
And also very much less mature.
right. She's got vagaries to her personality, just like all the characters do.
Mhm. Yeah, 100% on that.
Yeah, and
And-
it could definitely be considered a theme of age versus wisdom, I guess.
Hmm.
Because they're definitely and man, leading into this episode with that in particular, I don't know if we've seen Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D actually cry on camera yet, folks. But if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen in the next about hour and 10 minutes. So stick around for that. Did you have anything else specific from the first episode, Cameron?
Well, I was just gonna say the whole show itself is kind of like that mix of like it is an adult themed show in what Ricky D has affectionately referred to a genre for children. I was wondering if that had anything to do with it. Other quick notes was I'd like the shot of Spike sitting on the broken TV at the very end, like sitting on his conquest, even though he had nothing to do with actually killing it. Love the moment because as they were talking about the little hacker boy, who I'm pretty sure they said is 13, like I immediately thought of Ed, and then there's that great
Little
scene where she's
hacker boy.
leaving the hospital and like looks up and has that connection with him because of course like that could have been her. Great.
That look back was definitely for sure.
And I think that's it. I'll save the rest for shots of show and ratings.
That was the first like hard heartstring pull to
Yeah.
your point, Kylie. And yeah, that's I'm glad that one of you guys brought it up. It was also I think one of the more feminine shots of Ed,
Mhm.
for lack of a better term, in the series up to this point. It feels like they kind of overplayed the curves in the lines when she was looking back a little more. Maybe in both of these episodes, but all of that out of the way, let's dive into the emotional depths that is our next session. Miss Kylie, please give us our synopsis and any fun, sad facts that you have for session 24.
Okay, session 24, Hard Luck Woman. Faye and Ed discover clues to their respective pasts that could send the crew of the Bebop heading in very different directions. So first of all, Hard Luck Woman, the title is that, 1976 single by Kiss, of course.
Of course.
And then no, really? Oh,
I don't.
okay. I
Kiss.
thought that was but then Spike towards the end of the episode is reading a book called Walking on the Moon. And that would be a reference probably to that single by the Police.
Walking on
Walking
the
on that
moon.
moon. Yes, exactly. And then also McIntyre and Apple Deli seems to be a reference to Mac and Apple computers.
And dude kept saying Macintosh too. Kept
Mm.
calling him Macintosh.
Macintosh, yeah.
Mm.
So that's what I got.
And then, as we referenced before, the egg eating stuff is from the movie Cool Hand Luke.
Mm.
Yes, yes.
And if you guys noticed, all those eggs were in how many baskets? So this episode, I think the thing about it is the intro. The thing that really struck me about the intro, I believe, and I'm asking here because I'm not sure, but I believe that this is the longest that we have gone without any music in a session so far. Like the first was a minute and 45 seconds, maybe first 2 minutes is just Faye and Ed and no music. And I was like, ooh, this feels different right away. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. Did you feel different right away with this episode?
I honestly didn't notice the lack of music, but there was something about Ed sleepwalking right there in Faye's room. I knew that Faye and Ed were probably going to be important characters for this episode, and it also made me nervous that Faye is a little bit more manipulative than some of the other characters, and I was nervous about what she might be lining up to put Ed through.
I was also nervous. I was like, great, is Faye about to like make me hate her again? She was just getting on my good side, and now I'm just gonna hate her again. But no, that ended up not happening. I did find it weird that did Faye kiss Ed or bite her, or was she trying to blow her up like a balloon? Or
So what I got from that is that she was trying to blow air into her lungs to interrupt her breathing, potentially thus waking her up. I have never awakened someone that way before. However, if my lovely wife is watching, hello, honey, I love you. Sometimes, as an idiot, when you find somebody better than you and you get to marry them, and they go in for a kiss because they're super sweet, sometimes you feel, oh, it'd be really funny if instead of kissing her, I like blew air into her mouth. And you pretty much only do that like once, and it's
only once.
but it's I mean it is kind of funny.
I've gone for tongue in the nose. That's another good one. Highly recommended.
I have not done that. I may have to do that.
My cats have
Intimacy.
done that to me.
Intimacy with Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D.
If you want to
By
really
tongue
know
in your
someone,
nose.
Baby,
Wow.
I'm gonna put my tongue in your nose.
we just turned this into Love Line.
Okay, Cameron, if
you
Ricky
don't
D and
send
I
me down
could
that
make,
road.
yeah, if
Let's
Ricky
have a
D and
podcast about Loveline.
I could make a show like or about Loveline, we would. And there's not much stopping us outside of like availability and time, etc. But this is the right crowd for that jaunt. So let's not go on that.
Good to know.
Let's talk
I probably
about Cowboy
listened.
Bebop.
Sorry, I just got to say, I probably listened to 30 hours of Loveline this week.
Nice. Ricky D has the links if you folks are interested.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
totes.
Yeah.
do any of you guys, let's start with Josh and Kylie, do any of you guys identify with Ed here as a, let's call it a heavy sleeper?
No, I think we're both pretty light sleepers for sure.
I sleep
Really?
pretty heavy.
No,
I-
don't-
I do.
no,
You're
How could
just
there
loud.
possibly be disagreement on this?
no.
We need the Love Line expert here. Ricky D, what you got for them?
Josh,
He turned the
based
TV off and he's like, I was watching that.
You're damn right, because I was watching it.
based on your relationship with your mother, Josh, I'm going to say you're probably a late sleeper.
I am kind of a light sleeper. You're right. But once I do hit a deep sleep, like I don't sleep very often. Like I sleep maybe 6 hours a night, because I do a lot of stuff. But when I do hit that wall, I fall into a pretty deep sleep for a good while. So I've been known to sleep deeply.
And then he
Cameron?
also has trouble waking
No.
up, so he's just
Yeah.
a grump.
Ah,
Only compared to my wife.
she's an even lighter sleeper than yourself.
Yes.
Ricky D.
You'd have to ask my dog.
I can
Zoe
see Ricky
D?
sleeping like a truck.
Well, I'll just share this story because I've never sleepwalked. Anyway, but there's a great story about one time during a sleepover. I had some friends over, and we were watching, I believe, Time Cop. Not important,
Yes.
but detail. And everyone had fallen asleep, including myself, but my friend. And he's sitting there kind of spooked. There's a big window behind him that opens out onto the woods behind the house. He's watching Time Cop, a little old for us at the time. Apparently, at one point, I leapt off the couch, turned off the TV, turned around, garbled some Cthulhu-like nonsense, and then went back to sleep. And apparently, my friend was so scared. He just sat there in the dark for 15 minutes, wondering what had happened.
Wow.
So I guess
Did
in
Cameron
that
just
night,
curse me?
I was a heavy sleeper. I don't know.
So, I, one of those people that does that pretty constantly, except it's not nonsense. It's completely formed sentences. Apparently, I've been told this, right? I don't remember any of it. But I sleep like a rock. I've slept through being physically shaken before. It's just one of those things. But
He's not wrong.
It's happened. You've all seen photographic proof. If you are not a first time viewer to the sudden but inevitable Rebop, that's what we call a tease. You'll have to go back into our old video archive to check out our old episodes. But I do have this weird thing where if I'm asleep and somebody calls me, for some reason, when I answer the phone, I do everything in my power to sound as though I've been awake for hours. You just caught me in the middle of an errand. I totally have time to talk. I'm ready to go. What's up? So it's like, hey, what's going on? And it's I don't answer the phone like that ever unless I was asleep. And I have no idea why it happens because I can totally then completely forget the entire conversation that takes
You're
place after
ashamed that you were taking a nap or something.
yeah, it's like the deep lizard guilt in my brain is wake up and answer the phone. It's so strange, and I have no idea why I do it. But yes, I'm a heavy sleeper, so I identified with Ed having her face stretched to comic proportions and snap back into place.
I just love the sudden shot where she was sitting there out of nowhere. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
So Josh G, an old person on an old TMA episode, couple episodes, he had a roommate that was on call all the time, and they were we were over there, and they, he had been drinking, and everybody was trying to wake him up, oh, you have to go home this, at some certain time, but they couldn't wake him up. So they're somebody's finally call him, and he woke up right away because he's always on call. It's wow. Yeah.
Until just to belabor that point this much more, I can't wake up, Kylie. I'm very grumpy when I wake up, just like you said Josh was. It takes me forever. I need 90 minutes. There was a whole thing about it. I don't know why that's the one instance where that happens. It's really strange. Did anybody else's heart drop twice right at the start of this episode? First, when Spike referred to the girls as the girls.
I thought that was yes. I did note that, and I thought it was quite adorable. That's what I call Trev and Minnie, is the girls.
And then again, immediately when he finished that sentence by saying "are gone," I was like, ugh. This is we're 3 minutes into this episode, and I'm having way too many emotions already. Also, we've been talking about it for 20 minutes, and we're 3 minutes in. So, did you guys
just the opening with Faye and the videotape was heartbreaking. Yeah, I mean, the first thing I noticed was oh, TV again. We're opening on a TV, and then the last episode he's talking about how TV, the evils of TV, the terror of TV, and here it's no, TV is going to maybe not save Faye, but it's how she's going to find herself thanks to TV.
Yeah. It's a tool that can be used either for good or for nefarious matrixy purposes.
Mm-hmm.
I think the word for the song that plays when we're introduced to Ed's father. What?
Weird.
I think the word for the song that's playing is sexy. The song is sexy, right?
It's
Is
a good song. It's a good song.
Is that the word? Oh my gosh, I love that song. Now, Cameron, I know that we talked about the music in this episode being a touchstone, and it is. This is not the song for me quite yet. So, I'm going to hold off and say Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. How are you doing, buddy?
Doing good so far.
Okay.
Not totally dry.
Yeah. Do you have any notes about Faye or Ed or their ennui?
Not up to this point. This is right about when we're being introduced to Earth, right?
Yep. And everybody's again disappointed that they're back on Earth.
Yeah. I must have missed something. Is all of Earth kind of underwater? Is it relatively uninhabitable?
It seemed to be quite desolate.
Well, I mean, we've seen it before when they were looking for Ed, so there are communities and
And
cities.
obviously, they sat down and had dinner together at a table somewhere. So there's
Right.
has to be some spots that are.
Well, and
but
you
it
got
does,
that
yeah.
shot of the geography, right, where it's like a landmass with a huge chunk taken out from that meteor. So it's, I mean,
It's
I
just
think
dangerous.
yeah, but to Kylie's point, I mean, if the Earth started losing land, that would equate to a bunch more water,
Yeah.
right? Like that's
I think it was implying craters, though, right? Like that's where.
right, craters, but also
Definitely, yeah, terrain changing events.
oh,
For
Well,
sure.
the moon
Kylie-
cracked.
yes,
and
Kylie, the moon cracked. That would affect the tides deeply.
That's true. That's true.
Oh.
We're so glad you're back, Kylie. We all missed it. We all missed it except for you. Well, and apparently Josh. Good job, Josh, too. I don't
I
mean
thought
to-
I just said the moon cracked.
You did, but Kylie
We weren't
had
listening.
asked about the water. So
I just love being on Earth. I'm a sucker for post-apocalyptic stuff. We'll get more into that later, but I just love how Earth is the most alien-feeling planet in the Cowboy Bebop solar system. Like every other planet feels more like Earth today.
More
Well said.
Yeah, civilization.
yeah, and it good one more layer of discomfort, right, for this episode. Like we're on the worst planet this show has available. Like
Yeah.
come on. I do
Oh.
like
Which isn't
that.
too far
Earth.
from the truth, like today.
Well, it, by default is both the worst and best that we
Yeah,
have
I mean,
available.
I'd rather live here than any other planet right now.
Currently,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right now,
That's-
yeah, for sure.
I'd say we got the pick of the litter currently. I did like that Faye promised something good to Ed, and then somebody else fulfilled that promise. Not necessarily, because of that, but it did end up working out that way. Callie D in the chat, climate change, my man. Callie D in the chat is still in hippie jet mode from last week, and we are totally cool with that. Hippie jet mode is the way to be.
I'm sorry, just go back to the sexy tune real quick. I know that's not our touch point, but is that the one with the Beatles bass line? I mean, I'm just double checking that's what that was, and I wasn't going crazy, right?
Yeah, and I caught the Beatles bass line
Okay.
for sure. The come together.
Yeah,
for
that's
sure,
it.
all day. Yep.
Okay.
And what do we think about Ed's dad, Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D? How the first time you meet this man, tell me what's going through your heart and your head.
Well, it's difficult because the first things we really learn about him is he abandoned Ed at a babysitter's.
Forgot. He
Forgot
forgot
about her
about
at
her.
daycare.
I'm confused how that's different from abandoned. but
Everyone
okay.
has forgotten their kid in the store at least once. Don't deny it.
I have never done that.
But
I would just
however,
assume. I was left
when-
at the store once.
I've literally
Probably not by your
I think
father.
we
left
need
my
to
kid at
twist
a
this into a
daycare,
Love
but I
Line
only made it to the
podcast.
parking lot.
Josh, how did it make you feel when you were left behind? And which one of your parental units was in charge of that?
I don't think I really knew at the time. They actually told me later on that they had left. I was
I
in the
think we should
magazine
delve a little
aisle
bit deeper
reading
into this.
Nintendo Power, just
I used to
really
do
trying to
that
get all
too.
the codes and stuff. And then
20
they
minutes
left, and then came back and found me in the magazine aisle and was like, "Hey, it's time
So-
to go."
Now, to everyone's point, including Roy, the intrepid DM in the chat, and Rosie in the chat, on accident versus on purpose. Roy's never done it. I've never done it. We've all had moments where we went, "Where is my child?" That's a little different. to Rosie's point of on accident versus on purpose, I think that's why Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D doesn't like, I'm just going to call him Mr. Ed, because he's using
Well,
the understanding of other parents who would say, I know what it's like to lose track of your kid, to kind of couch the fact that it has been 7 years.
No, I don't think it's bad or that it's good that it's been 7 years, but
Oh, no.
or anything like that. But it could happen, especially the 90s.
Oh, no, and we're not
90s
criticizing you. I
to
just
that
merely
point,
I meant to illustrate that you kind of are all illustrating the point of why that guy is a douche, right?
I do want to round out my opinion of Mr. Ed.
Please.
Of course, that's the first thought is, well, he abandoned Ed at this daycare for 7 years. But the first time Ed sees her father, she jumps off the ship into his arms, happier. This is a person we see at a 9.5 out of the happiness scale out of 10, and she's breaking through that and going into double digits.
Right.
Well, not even into his arms. She jumps over him, knowing and trusting that he will catch her.
Yeah.
In like a thing they haven't done for, did they say 7 years?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
And if Ed is 13, those are some important years.
That's
Those are
Significant.
most of the years that they would have been doing that, in fact.
Yeah.
I have to do this because we have wonderful people in our live chat. Callie says, my mom lost me at the largest airport in Germany once. She didn't abandon me so much as I wandered off on accident. I was 3, so that was fun for her.
Kids do
Oh,
that.
poor Rona.
Rosie says, we left my little sister at church one time. Mom thought she was going with me. I thought she was going with her. We both left with her. Friends brought her home. Totally, yeah. If you have a wonderful, happy, loving community around you, it's a thing that is understandable. And that's why make this guy so objectionable, is because as far as we know, he doesn't have that. Like, he can't even remember his assistant's name or his child's name or his child's gender or a lot of stuff. So
And again, they live on a post-apocalyptic hellscape where
right.
a meteor could fall on her head at any moment.
And tech note, they could not picture real-time satellite imagery, right? Because they had satellites in the late 90s, but there was they couldn't project that one forward to go, yeah, someday they'll just be taking live video feeds of the planet. And
Well,
it'll be
in the Ed
updated.
episode, because obviously that one satellite was still there, but I assume the satellites wouldn't be very safe with all the moon rocks crashing into them.
Right. And most of them, to your point, are probably gone at this point. But I think the futility of what it is that this guy is doing is
Yeah.
part of the point, right?
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Because it's going to be A, constantly changing, B, nobody lives here. Like,
Well, he's prioritizing this feudal.
right.
At one point, I said, "Don't go chasing meteor falls. Stick to the Eds and the I don't know. That's as far as I got. I stopped. But yeah, he's prioritizing this feudal effort, instead of his daughter.
Just
She's
stick to
the afterthought. He
bebops
loves her.
and the Eds that you're used to. Yeah.
Thank you for taking it to a satisfying conclusion.
You had to put Bebop in there, but
I did.
wow, this is
So
I love
I
this
was
show.
my thoughts on that was that maybe Ed jumping into his arms wasn't a reflection on him. It was a reflection on Ed's very forgiving nature.
Yep.
And honestly, it reminds me of my my relationship with my own dad. We just reconnected a few years ago, but I hadn't seen him since I was 13. And so 13 is like the magic number, I guess. But yeah, I remember reconnecting with him, and it was just like that really giddy childhood kind of feeling, even though he may have totally not been father of the year. So I think I really kind of resonated with how Ed was feeling, just forgiving nature.
Well, I do think it was much more interesting that they made him. I mean, he was loving towards her when he was giving her attention. And I think that was
Totally.
far more interesting for them to do than to have just made him completely not care or completely
Oh,
abusive.
callous. Yeah.
It's much more confusing, especially for Ed that way. Like, it's almost more toxic.
Right. Well, and that's a thing I believe that's, I don't know if prevalent is the word, maybe well known among children, relatable for children of single parents growing up, because of you, as a person who experienced that, I had a tendency to idolize the parent that wasn't present, right? Because I could imagine that parent to be whatever I wanted them to be, where it was like, oh yeah, he's probably the greatest and he got all this cool stuff, you know, and if I was wherever he was, it would be fine. But it's like, as a child, you don't have the capacity to go, yeah, but one of your parents is here providing for you, taking you to school every day, making sure you're okay and have clothes to wear and stuff, you know. So I feel like Ed definitely, as we saw in the last episode, she starts having these pangs of, I would like to belong. And we haven't seen her have those up to that point, but now she gets them, and she has this opportunity, a couple of opportunities really quickly stacked back to back to belong. And she, in the perfect illustration of how much more mature she is than the rest of us, at 13 is like, no, this ain't it.
Well, I think Faye put that in her head too. Like Faye was really, she was trying to find out where she belonged as well, and really projected that onto Ed, and was like, "You need to find out where you belong." And I think that resonated with Ed so much that she was like, "You're right. I don't know where I belong. My dad is over here doing this, and the bounty hunters are over here doing this, but I don't feel like I quite." So, I think Faye kind of started that whole avalanche of
Well,
things
even
going
before
on.
Faye was the nun saying,
Yeah, that's true.
You know, we all have to we cherish whatever ties they have. And I kind of did the, you know, Thor Ragnarok gif. Do we? Do we? If those are our ties? Like, your ties apparently are with your found family. Yeah, I feel like Ed is just getting bad advice this whole episode.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like Ed is getting advice, right? And it's up to her to
True.
parse, is this good advice for me or bad advice for me? And I feel like she definitely takes a page right out of Faye's book, right? She can see that
At
Faye
13, though, I mean, can you make those decisions like very easily? Is this good? Is this bad? Are you thinking
Well,
about
she's-
that at 13?
normally, obviously, no, right? But she was on her own when we met her. So
True.
it's, I mean,
She is Ed.
she's a super genius, right? I mean, she can take care of herself. But yeah, I mean, and that's a fair point, Kylie. But it's I think a big part of this, Cameron, is not necessarily that we're supposed to identify with one piece of advice as the correct one, right? It's just like these are all pieces of advice that everybody has gotten at some point, and it's showing you one size does not fit all as far as family is concerned or as far as belonging is concerned. You know, this, that, and the other thing, and it's a choice that you have to make, and a path that you have to walk, sometimes alone. Usually, honestly, you have to do it alone before you can figure out where you belong. So, yeah, excellent. I love all of you, and I love our podcast. I'm having a blast. So, before I give my next note, let's say Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. What's your next note on this show, my friend?
We're going a little bit back in time, but when they ran into that daycare and all of the kids were acting exactly like Ed,
Yeah.
that was great.
Oh, the trash
Yeah.
gremlins?
Yes, trash gremlins.
Yes.
Or babysitter, as I'm. But yeah, all those trash gremlins, they all acted like Ed. They all ate like Ed. It was fun to watch.
One of them collects fingernails.
Best
Oh
moment
my
in the
God.
entire series. Yes.
Just the pinky. It's totally cool. Like,
Can I please have your nails? How do you say no to that?
And she's
Faye,
got
you
the,
are
like-
heartless.
I know, right? I
Now,
love the
that-
prayer. I love the Our Father in Heaven, you know we're here, so I'll leave out the rest. Let's eat.
let's see.
That was a cool nun.
Yeah.
During that scene with the nails, there's a weird moment, and I only noticed because I listened to the headphones the second time. Did you guys hear the weird counting in the background? Like,
Yep.
I guess it must have been one of the kids, but it sounded like a weird voice is just like doing this countdown or something.
Yeah.
Whoa, I didn't notice
I
that.
didn't notice,
I-
no.
I figured that it was like I identified with, having been the weird kid in several groups of kids. I was like, oh, there was always one kid that would be either talking to themselves or like vocalizing nonstop for kind of no
Right.
reason.
Grounding.
It sounded like,
exercises.
yeah.
Yeah.
A quirky
Yeah.
kid thing. It just
Yeah.
creeped me out because all of a sudden I hear like this number station coming through. But then later too, when Faye is leaving, it happens again. But it's like another voice talking about a satellite, and I don't know if that's just like the startup on her ship, or
Oh.
I don't know if you got that. But it was just a couple like weird background voices that you could only hear in the headphones?
There was somebody was like choking up or like sobbing in my immediate vicinity during this episode. And there was some small audio cues that I missed.
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
know- I don't actually know who
Oh,
was
I
responsible.
was like,
but
who would be sobbing? I get it though. I get it. Children, toddlers.
Jesse.
Jesse.
Oh, I said Jesse.
What'd you
Jesse.
what'd you do to your wife?
yeah, it was me.
Spoiler
is a-
alert.
This is my new favorite runner where Kylie's like, "Oh, I get it now," and then everybody goes, So, we have we when Jet tells, rather I think Spike tells Jet that they're gone again. Jet goes, where did she go this time, Arcturus? Does anybody in the chat or on the screen have a mental reference point for the word Arcturus?
No, I'm sure there was one. I was sure there was one there, but I did not catch it.
Minsk?
Yes, sir. The leader of the Dominion
Dominion?
in the Terran Dominion in
Yes.
StarCraft. Yes.
Yep.
1998.
I
I
mean, I'm
believe.
pretty sure that's also some other famous Roman general. I mean,
Uh,
my knowledge of the XCOM character is much more solid than that.
Right. So, if I'm not mistaken, the StarCraft character is named after a star. I believe Arcturus is actually a star that we have, maybe hubristically named, but we named it.
You are a huge nerd.
I agree, and I appreciate that. The timing on that was kind of immaculate. So
Where's that weird voice coming from?
I do appreciate that when they get back, though, Jet tries to lay down the Captain Hammer here, right? And even he eases off. Like, we've not really seen Jet have a ton of emotional intelligence up to this point, but the face that Faye makes you guys,
Mm-hmm.
ow. And Jet immediately picks up on that. Now, we do get like a misogynistic Jetism from him shortly thereafter, but he knows to ease off and let Faye be. My next note is the music thing that I can't wait to talk about. So let's have Josh and Kylie give any notes that they feel like we've jumped past up to this point in the episode, and then we'll go Ricky, then we'll go Cameron.
Nope. Then my next is the music.
Yes, I also do not have anything to add.
Yeah.
Sweet. Ricky D. From Best Bits
we-
with Ricky D.
We skipped right past Faye's old classmate.
We did.
Literally old.
Yeah. And that was kind of an interesting moment where that old woman kind of wheels up and, Faye, is that you? It was just a really interesting moment. We're like, oh, somebody that Faye went to high school with could still be wandering around. She could meet these people. It was a really, when you think of these futuristic shows, you think they're Star Wars or Star Trek time, like far, far, far in the future. But this is one of those really fun little moments that it brings everything in smaller and closer.
I agree with that. I still wasn't quite a huge fan of grandma exposition. Just because, I don't love the trope of people recognizing people way too easily and then being super cavalier about something that they'd be gobsmacked.
Yeah.
Gobsmacked?
Well, she seemed to know that Faye was put into that
Yeah.
healing chamber.
Or
But she
remembered,
didn't
yeah.
know that she didn't have her memories.
Yeah, I feel like if that that was such a monumental moment that is only played for exposition, and I feel like, well, you could have got there through flashbacks or like finding buildings. I think there's a lot of other ways they could have done. I would have appreciated more.
Now, to that point, this show has always relied heavily on its tropes and its Mr. or Mrs. Exposition character because
Sure.
it doesn't have a ton of time to get through itself per session, right? But yeah, she was definitely a little bit, and she was kind of recapping some stuff that we had already known.
I mean, that's what she
But-
was there for. Yeah.
Yeah, but she
yeah.
definitely
If you hadn't
put a
seen the previous
face-
episodes.
Right, and she definitely put a face to some of those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Ricky D, do you feel like your immediate shields that you put up with Faye potentially manipulating Ed in this episode, did they come back down all the way through, or did you?
I think so.
Yeah.
It was really humanizing to see Faye longing for this home. She's always running to the next place. She's always trying to get something out of the next person. But she had this moment of, I need to find my home. I need to be where I'm comfortable. What was that? Belonging. She needs to be somewhere where she belongs. And that really humanized her. And especially at the end of the episode where she kind of mapped out the house and found her bedroom and lay down on where her bed would be.
Dude,
that was really
crazy.
humanizing.
Well, I think, what did she say? Belonging is the very best thing there is, right?
Yeah.
And
Which
that,
kind of makes you realize that's probably what she's been chasing the whole series, right?
right.
I think maybe one of the other reasons the grandma thing didn't work so well for me, or the old friends specifically, is because I feel like in all the flashbacks, we haven't really seen her family or her home. We've seen her school and her classmates. Those are the faces she saw in the video. Those are the flashbacks we've been seeing for the most part. So then when she's like so dead set on home and her family and her family home, there's a little bit of disconnect there for me where it's like, well, you have a classmate. You found your school. That seems to be what the show has been telling us is important. So if it was going, and I love the homes, I love that bedroom scene. That was a great visual and a great moment. I just wish they had established that as strong as they had established her schoolmates.
Well, and if that's suddenly Faye's main goal, then why wouldn't she be like, oh, who else do you know from my past life? Where's my closest family member, or what happened to the money?
Yeah,
or something?
Right, like she does have a
answers.
past, yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, but
That's a very good point.
Didn't she already kind of dive into her family past in a previous episode when she first found that video? She was seeing visions of her family.
Well, she didn't have like, I mean, they're gone, obviously, right? But she doesn't necessarily know like how to find anybody that would be left over, because I don't know that there was. It shows in this that she's having the flashbacks to the location. So up till this point, she just may not have known where to look.
Well, what I mean is, like, when she watched that video, she was starting to remember things.
Yeah.
I feel like, and she was remembering her family and stuff like that. So I feel like this was more on the remembering her extended past, not her like family past. She was remembering her high school past, where her house was, where her school was, where those things were. Whereas the first time she was seeing those memories, she was remembering where she grew up, where her family was. And so this was just an extension of that, I feel like. And that's why they didn't dive much into the family aspect, and they dove more into like the high school aspect.
The other part of your life that would be big at that age.
Right,
You'd
right.
have your family life and then your school life, or your social life, which is primarily dominated by school. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, it's a two sides of the same old blurry Betamax picture.
Right.
Before we leave the school, though, we do have to talk about how amazing it was when Faye grabbed Ed and ran off with her, and Ed just remained in the same position.
Yeah.
You picked her up like a suitcase, and and that was actually maybe the nicest.
And
just
Ed
before
case.
that was the nicest that we've ever seen Faye be, because the little girl's like confused for a second, and the old lady's like, "This is," and Faye goes, "I'm a ghost from the past. All right, see you guys later."
It wasn't that nice. I don't
Well,
know.
she
It kind of felt like she was messing with the girl and then took off.
Maybe a little bit, but she wasn't like, she didn't needle them. She wasn't she wasn't real Faye about it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
she was softer than she probably would have been had that been Spike and Jet asking those questions. All right, so Cameron, talk about your musical memory touchstone with this episode, so that in case it overlaps with the other music notes that the rest of us made, you get first go at it.
Oh.
Please take it away.
Well, sure. I mean, again, like, I didn't remember much about the show. I remembered enjoying it, and I remembered loving the music. I've downloaded a bunch of the songs, but Call Me, Call Me is not just my favorite song of the entire series. It's one of my favorite songs. I listen to it all the time, and it's so weird because, like, one, it just hits me in the feels all the time. And, like, it puts me in the exact same mood I was the first time I watched this episode, which I'm sure you all know how you were in that mood when you watched that scene with that song. But it's so weird because it takes me there, but I had no memory or context of what happened around it. I just remember feeling a certain way, this like bittersweetness, remorse. Whenever I hear the song, it's just, music is weird. Music is weird like that.
They did
So
that with another song in this episode too. When they're traveling back to the Bebop, they
I
were
like that.
playing a song that
That's
was
one of my favorites
very.
too.
It's and it was very like cerebral. Like it was something that you would listen to when you just found out something heavy, something just got dropped on you, and you were like,
Mhm.
God, I need to think about this for a minute. That song really, really embodied that thought process, I feel like. And I think to your point as well, Cameron, at the end, it's the same thing. It really, that music really, really, they know how to invoke feelings with the music.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the best parts of this show by far, is that, like you were saying, you can remember this song. You might not necessarily remember the context of every part of the show, but you remember that the song was awesome for whatever reason.
So I'm really happy that that didn't
Oh,
match
good.
mine
Oh,
because
good.
I was really excited to give mine. I was like, if he says the same thing I say, I'm gonna be upset a little bit. So the scene where Jet and Spike fight Mr. Ed and Mr. McIntyre, and Spike is totally failing to have any effect on him whatsoever. This is my favorite Bebop soundtrack song. It's called "Don't Bother None," and it's the lyrics of the song are kind of about the futility of trying to change the past or things that you can't control. Definitely look up the full version on YouTube. It's really, really good, but it definitely applies both to Spike's attempts to knock out this just slab of a human who just remains
He is
unmoved.
big.
Yeah, he does not flinch. He doesn't give. There's no movement. He's kind of the juggernaut. So
But he still throws eggs.
right,
Very
because
well.
and
Like
he's
bullseye.
like, he's like, this is good enough for me. I don't, necessarily need to crush these people. But the song playing behind them, "Don't Bother None," it's just so it applies not only to that fight, right, but it also applies perfectly to the task that he is undertaking of mapping the aforementioned ever-changing landscape, which is itself kind of a pretty decent direct metaphor for life, right? Where you're trying to map out the road ahead of you. It's always changing. There's literally no way to know the path without walking it. You have to physically be out there doing the work. And that song the last time, to your point of feelings and memory, I believe the last time we heard the song "Don't Bother None" is when they are casing the town looking for the young boy in sympathy for the devil. It's like this very slow, ponderous acoustic guitar riff. And I gotta tell you, the lyrics in the full version, they're sung with just so much angsty blues vibe going on that I love this song. Go look up "Don't Bother None" on YouTube.
I feel like that song belonged in a saloon fight.
Seriously.
Like someone broke a bottle over someone's head and then the music starts playing and there's just a brawl.
I love this fight. And it's over pretty quick. It's not quite as necessarily as dramatic as some of the other fights, right?
The headbutt at the end, when Mr.
Yeah.
Ed just knocks Spike out, like,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Crushed. And probably like compressed a couple of vertebrae in his spine or something, because that was intense. I mean, that guy, like we said, he was a wall of a person. So the last actual note that I have for this episode, I'm not going to say out loud because we would all start crying, and it also would spoil some of the segments going on. So I would like to throw it to my guest, Cameron. Do you have any notes that, I mean, we never really go in structure, but do you have any notes that you feel like you have to talk about from the second session?
Session 2. I just want to talk about that ending, guys. The whole ending under the Call Me song.
Yeah.
It's so moving, so it gets me in the feels, but I'm not sure which feels. They're not great feels. We've talked about how we don't think Ed's making the right choice. She's going off to a very unhealthy relationship with a father person. Faye is chasing a past that no longer exists, literally. She's lying in the ruins of her past. And, these are not great choices our characters are making, I don't think. And I don't mean to make it about the boys in the room. I kind of think it's about the men. It's about Spike and Jet. We cut back to them, and it's their kind of machoism, their emotional stuntedness, their pushing people away has now literally pushed them away, and they are left alone, literally sucking eggs.
Their first
And
bounty in 24 episodes.
yes, yeah, and they're right back where we found them at the beginning of the series. They are back there. They have made no progress because they have not, because they found the family, but they did not nurture it and care for it. And I think that's the lesson we're taking from this moment in this episode. And I'm not sure what's going to happen in the next two. Like I said, I have no memory of what happens in the finale, but
Me either.
yeah, yeah.
You can't have a memory of a thing you've never seen. Now, Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D, to that point, you have always stated, when Ed and I are on the screen, you feel safe. You're like, okay, no stakes, we're good.
Ooh.
Where you at, my friend?
During that episode, I was clutching my dog and sobbing, and it was difficult. I mean, there's an extremely powerful connection between Ed and Ein, and Ein has to go with Ed, but there was just something about them both leaving the safety of the Bebop and abandoning everything we've known that they've known. It was just super, super powerful.
They both look back to like they're not super sure.
Especially Ein, like when Ein runs out the Bebop and looks back, and
He's all crying.
you're like, Ein kind of knows, like, I think we should stay here, but I'm with you, buddy. Whatever you do, I'm with you. Because I don't have English to tell you I think you're doing the wrong thing.
That was my my moment of comfort, right? Was like, at least Ed and Ein are together, and that makes me feel a little better about it, at least. A little bit better.
But I think I'm a little wrong about Spike and Jet. Because who do you think, there's a small step forward, which one of those two do you think put the pinwheel on the front of the Bebop?
I think Ed did it.
Who cared? No, because Ed gave the pinwheel to Spike before she left.
I guess that's true.
So
that's true.
I would have to guess Spike, because Spike was the one to say the girls are gone, which means he had the presence of mind and he was up really early, of course, but
when he found the message too that said bye bye.
He did, right?
Yeah, that was awful.
So
yeah.
It's difficult though, because we just had Jet playing the surrogate dad in the last episode, and Jet kind of playing the surrogate dad for a chunk of the series.
I feel Jet's a little more in touch with his emotions than Spike too.
And I think he kind of always has been, even though they definitely both have a machismo problem, right? But he seems to be a little more wise in the ways of emotion, even if he's not, swimming in those waters all the time. I do want to say really quickly hello to Phil in the chat. We've missed you, Phil. He says it's heartbreaking to see them go, and we can do nothing but agree with you there. I'd like to throw it to Josh and Kylie. Josh and Kylie, how are you guys feeling in these last couple scenes? What was Josh in particular, if you don't mind going first? Where are you at mentally right now with the show?
I'm good. I wasn't expecting this episode to be as heavy as it was. By the end, for sure. I don't think it struck me as much. Like, I definitely got a little misty-eyed. But for whatever reason, it didn't, like, I don't know. I didn't cry. I'll say that. I did, like I said, I did have a little bit of like, oh God, this is really sad. And I have a very, very high rating for both of these last episodes. But I think in the back of my head, I know that they're going to be back.
Well, and the tagline at the end definitely seems to imply that as well, right? It says, see a space cowgirl someday, or something like that.
I actually did go look up and see where the Cowboy Bebop movie falls, if it was a sequel or whatever. It's not. It's in between episodes 22 and 23, I believe. So none of this has actually happened yet in the movie, which also makes me excited, and also kind of worried that they're not going to come back for the season finale because of that. So
this show, Cowboy Bebop, is the first time I've watched a show that knows with such certainty that they're going into a final episode. The epilogue at the end of the episode where they tell what's happening next, it's all about, hey, Space Cowboys, we're wrapping this up. The fact that they, kind of broke up the ship's crew at the second to last episode, it says a lot that they know exactly where they're going. In other shows, they might be coming to the end of their 10-year run, but they don't seem to be as obvious about the fact that, hey, it's coming. Here's the end of this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a brilliant point, and I think that is one of the things that I love about this show is that it has so much confidence in itself, and they knew from the start, the composer and the animators, they all knew. They were like, this is new, this is going to be huge, this is going to last, and it's going to be one season long, and people are going to love it. And I've almost never seen somebody call their shot and just deliver, because all that opening text that flies past during the very cool theme song talks about there was this jazz club back in the day, and young kids would go there to create their own new forms of music, and that's what we're kind of doing with this show. Like, they don't say that. They say, and then in the future, these bounty hunters have this kind of bebop thing going on, and it's like a new genre, but it's, of course, meta-referential to the show itself, which is a fusion, a perfect marriage of visual and sonic influences that were created together and incubated in the same chamber, and it's just, they delivered. That's all I can really say. So now I'm going to hand it over to Kylie, because I believe we got Josh's reaction and then jumped some other direction. Miss Kylie.
Honestly, I don't think I have anything to add. I feel the same way as you guys have mentioned. It was a very emotional episode, and honestly, I just really don't have anything to add.
It's no comparison to the feelings I had with Wash, but
Don't even get that started, because that'll add a whole another hour to this podcast.
And that happened in the last 30 minutes of the last part of Firefly that Josh could possibly watch. I want to say, my friend, you did marvelously well. I was worried that you might just come on that stream swearing at me and never stop.
Well, I'm just trying to keep it family friendly. I'm still bitter.
Appreciate it.
I'm still
that's
pretty
why we do it.
bitter. I just recently joined a Brown Coats Facebook group, and I will always go on there and talk about how bitter I am about that.
I think
Our
Wash
friend-
dying is one of the best moments of movie history.
Our friend Rosie in the
It's been
chat
real,
agrees
Cameron.
with
Have a
you,
good night.
Josh.
Thank you.
Our friend Rosie in the chat, I believe she said that she almost walked away. But yes, it was.
Yeah.
Callie says it's way too early to bring that up, Josh. Way too early to bring that up.
Is it?
Which I think is funny, because didn't I bring that? No. You're right. Josh did bring that up. For a second, I thought he was getting unfairly criticized, but I think it was fair this time. Does anyone have any other episode-specific notes from this that they'd like to get to before we jump into what's definitely my favorite part of the podcast every week?
Just because I didn't choose it for my shot of the show, and I don't think anyone else did, a shot worth mentioning is that shot of the moon through the cracked window in Faye's flashback. So cool, especially considering the canon of the universe. That little foreshadowing is pretty amazing.
I liked it. Well, wonderful. With that, let's go ahead and cue up our first weekly segment, which of course is... Oh, I'm sorry, Josh. Did you have one other thing?
No, I was just itching my eyeball.
Oh, your face is covered up by the live badge. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Let's get into our first weekly segment then, which is Spiegel Spiel. Spiegel Spiel, of course, is where we share our favorite lines of dialogue from the episode. Kylie, thank you again for that title. It's so difficult to do in a quick manner. Favorite lines of dialogue from the episodes this week. Since we do have a guest, ladies and gentlemen, let's have our guest go first. Cameron, what were your choices for Spiegel Spiel?
Sure. For Brain Scratch, I have to go with one of what was his name, Londis's lines from his commercial. He says, "The body is merely an object. It is a form of existence far too impure to store the gods within us called souls." One, I just think that's like a cool turn of phrase, like the
So cool.
gods within us are souls. But I mean, that is in a nutshell human existence, right? Like the realization that we are, just meat and bone and blood, like he says, or ugly bags of mostly water, as is said in another sci-fi franchise, compared to what we consider as the human spirit and how we can rise above that mere physical existence and be bigger and better than that. So even though it's in a very cynical cult commercial, it's a good thought and well said. It sounded like something
Still
Q might say.
profound.
Yeah. And then am I doing my other episode
go
as
ahead.
well? I've got it here. My notes got misshuffled. So
call
Spiegel
second, by the
Spiel for Hard Luck Woman is you referred to it earlier, Jesse. Jet's a woman's heart's as fickle as the skies of Ganymede. Yes, it's a bit misogynistic, but it is just 9 words that effortlessly both define character while also world building. Like that simple phrase, if that had been Jet's first sentence in the first episode for session, like you would have known who that character is and the world they live in. So that's just some pretty efficient writing, I think.
Excellent choices. And yeah, weather can change in 5 minutes on Ganymede now, because that's the standard by which people judge other people's personalities. Now, had Spike said people, fickle, etc., I would have been like, yeah, way to go. And you're right, it's still an excellent point.
But it shows
completely fair.
It shows who Jet is as a character,
Right.
his bitterness, his past, yeah.
And which we have now seen, which is just, it's an excellent point, Cameron. My friend Josh, the host of the Twist My Arm podcast, I believe would like to go next for Spiegel Spiel.
Yeah, I got robbed last week, so I want to make sure that I don't get robbed this week. So first one for session 23 Brain Scratch is from Ed when she says data, bogus data.
Oh yes.
When she's typing
it.
in a fake
What was his name?
account. Oh God, I don't even
Marshall
remember.
Banana.
Marshall
Yes,
Banana.
Marshall Banana.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It was perfect. And then I really just like that because of today. I mean, I'm pretty sure I have like 12 Netflix accounts that, I don't know if you remember when you could get that free 7-day trial years ago, but they weren't tracking your credit card back then, so you could just make up as many emails as you wanted.
Please make number 8 Marshall Banana.
But then for session 24, my line was, and I loved this because it's so Kylie. It's a known fact human beings go insane if they don't eat.
I laughed at that line.
It's a relatable line, I think, for everyone in the world. But yeah, it Kylie, how does that make you feel?
Not any particular way. I think it's fact.
Is that so?
I
It's
probably
true.
won't be here next week, guys.
Because I ate them.
Wow.
You ate me? Oh my
Yes.
God.
I ate them.
Didn't just kill me, you ate me too.
That's what we were just talking about, is eating.
No, I know, I get it.
It goes
Get it
full
now.
circle. It goes full circle. Kylie, did you have selections for Spiegel Spiel this week?
Yes. For Brain Scratch, I really liked it was Londas as well. He had a lot of profound things to say, but I liked when he said television itself has become a new religion. That's definitely a good one.
It's very meta.
Quite accurate.
Yeah.
And then for Hard Luck Woman, I really liked when Ed is introducing everybody to each other. This is Father Person. This is Spike Person and Jet Person. I thought that
And
was
when
cute.
Faye had called her in the episode prior, she went, "Oh, it's Faye Faye," which
Mhm.
Yeah.
she had also done a couple weeks before, and Faye said, "No, it's just Faye."
Just one. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
Excellent,
Father
excellent picks. I like that. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D.
Yeah, for the first episode, I have another Londes quote. Do you know what the world's greatest and worst invention is? Television. And I thought that was really interesting because every generation kind of grows up with this new form of multimedia is the worst thing that's ever created and the greatest thing. It
Yeah.
was radio at one point with rock music and all of this, and that was the downfall of society. And then there was television, and we have our phones, and there was the internet at one point.
Internet.
And
Podcasts.
I mean, podcasts, sure, yeah. And on the one hand, that's true. It is the greatest thing and the worst thing. There's something about society being able to reach out so far and see so much that's incredibly good for us, but it seems to have a detrimental effect. So I really liked that quote. It was timely for the episode. I thought it was just a good quote in general. And for Hard Luck Woman, I have Faye said, "That's the best. Belonging is the very best thing there is." I thought that was another kind of controversial quote. You could definitely fall on the side of, it's very important to feel like you belong. It's important to feel that people love you and support you, and the people. I guess I'm kind of falling. I don't have any opposite to that anymore. But when you're just off on your own and you're alone with no one to lean against, or that's just a really rough life.
Well, and that's to your point. That's the reason that it's coming from Faye.
Right.
That's the reason that she's the one that says that that's important, right? Because she's the one that has experienced that lack.
And it looks like strength at certain points. It looks like she's a very strong person because she can be alone like that. But in reality, she's just scared and alone, and she wants to be with people that accept her and love her.
Well, just go back to Brain Scratch real quick. There's that moment where she calls him up and she's like in tears saying, "I thought I had it. I thought I'd gotten rid of my debt." And like, it's taken me till this episode to realize like all of her greed that we've seen throughout the entire series, like it's all been because of that, because she can't live her life because of this unfair debt she's been burdened with. And it's just kind of suddenly changed the way you look at her as a character.
Yeah, when we only get the outside world's view of her, it's hard to like her. So my pick for Spiegelspiel is the second half of Ricky's pick for the first episode, which is that television controls people by bombarding them with information until they lose their sense of reality. And that quote speaks for itself. I don't think I need to elaborate on that, but you could say that about anything in excess, right? So maybe the lesson that we're all looking for here is moderation is king. But to that point, to get such philosophical musings from what happens to be a 13-year-old hacker was pretty interesting. And it kind of fits with the, Ed having a different perspective and potentially being smarter than the rest of our characters despite being younger than them, sort of a thing. It's definitely a little misguided, which is fair because, he's a vegetable and he's 13 and a lot of other stuff, but there is definitely some meat in there. My second choice, I kind of can't believe that nobody picked this. My guess is that nobody picked this because they're trying to keep themselves from crying. Father Person Gone. That was just like, she stated it and she asked it at the same time. Father Person Gone. And the intonation at the end of it sounds just like anybody's kid when they're learning to talk, and it hit me right in my heart. And I'm so sorry, but it to see Ed finally maybe take some confidence from Faye, even if we can all agree that that's maybe not the best source of confidence ever. At least Ed is taking charge, right? Not that any of us begrudged her for sort of just floating in the wind, but she's seeing now, if I'm going to belong, it has to be in a way that I make it work, because the people I've been relying on to do it aren't doing it. So I believe that brings us, on a bit of a somber note, into our second segment of the week, which is, of course, Shot of the Show. Shot of the Show, as you know, is where we share our favorite visual moments from this week's episodes, the moments that impacted us just a little harder than the rest. Let's stick with that rotation. We'll have our guest Cameron go first, then we will go Josh, Kylie, Ricky, and me.
All right.
Oh,
well,
and Cameron, if you'd like to just mention your shots, Josh will give the time codes at the end because we watched on a different platform than you did.
sure. So my shot is, you mean
1818 in the first
describe it by
episode.
mentioning it? It's Spike standing in front of the tower of TVs and Brain Scratch. It was just a shot that I kind of double took on. I looked at it and I was like, why does that look like a Christmas tree? Like, what's that metaphor? And I mean, it could just be supposed to look like a religious monument or something, but I mean, the Christmas tree iconography there is pretty hard to miss. And then I realized it was when Londas was talking about like how he believed God did not create humans, humans created gods, which kind of is a metaphor to Santa Claus, this mythical being that rewards you for your behaviors. And I don't know if that's what they're going for, but that's what I took from it.
That's Phil in the chat hit me. Tower of Babel is kind of what I was thinking, and then
that's also very good.
you get the double meaning there too because this guy is just babbling almost mindlessly.
Love it.
Droning on. But yeah,
it's just
that's where I was going, and I really like that secondary religious iconography of the tree because like you said, he is speaking of on themes of and the creation of religion and the purposes of it and things like that. So that's an excellent pick.
Oh, thank you.
And your
Jeff.
second choice, you're welcome,
is this shot from the montage at the end with, I know, get ready for the tissues, of Ed leaving, walking away. And again, there's no really reason I picked this other than I don't have a ton of specific memories of the show, but this shot of Ed just walking by, I mean, look, you've got everything for me. You've got a post-apocalyptic landscape. You've got a gorgeous backdrop, a silhouette, intercutting between different thematically connected stories, plus the the power ballad with strings in the background. Everything about this is designed to make me love it. And the next shot where it's very similar, where Ed is talking to Ein. Maybe some more emotional stuff that really did get me when Ein's head lowered. But again, this is the shot that I remembered. Ed walking across to the song. It's stuck with me for 20 years.
And this one is at 20 minutes and 31 seconds on the Hulu version.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
All right. Well, with that, let's have you take it away, Josh.
So mine, sorry, I gotta just get a little set up here. Mine on episode 23 was at minute 11:46, and it's this one right here, where they're all kind of just feeling defeated because they couldn't find the bounty they're looking for. And Ed is kind of freaking out, just like, no.
I'm not sure we've seen a pulled back shot of the ship like this. This is one of the first time we really get to see
from this angle. I think we've seen it
I
from
can
other
agree with that.
angles, but this one's a little different for sure. And it was hard. I either wanted to choose this one or this one right here, the one from when they're in the looking for games, Jet's looking to get games, but and then let's see, my second shot for episode 24 was at minute 10:16, and it was this one right here where they're going back to the Bebop, and like we were talking about with the music, it's very thought-provoking where you're just kind of sitting and thinking about your life. And I feel like this is what Ed was doing at that moment, was really thinking about what she wanted to do when she got back to the ship. So
The color palette in this shot is somehow super evocative. I don't know if is it that it's a realistically colored sunset, or is it the shadow play is so accurate. I don't know what it is in particular, but to me, this is one of the most emotional shots in the entire series. I actually also picked this shot, but Josh got his in before I did, and I felt it only fair. And I did go first last week, so but I cannot help but it gives you that sense of uncertainty about the future, but not necessarily a negative uncertainty, but also not necessarily a positive uncertainty, just uncertainty. right? And like a sea of possibility, and just a little bit of like seeing Ed strike out on her own kind of made me think at some point my daughter is going to make decisions that don't involve my input. And I think that's probably why it hit me, because the first time I saw this, I would have been 10 or something. So I don't know that I remember this frame in particular, but I know that I will remember this frame for the rest of my life. Excellent, excellent choice, Josh. I believe that brings up Miss Kylie.
And that is this one.
Yes. So I chose this one. I just thought it was a lot of fun. I would say that both of these episodes were pretty emotional. But I think that this shot and this whole scene with them going in there was just pure fun. So for that reason, I chose this shot.
It does look a lot like Kaylee's dress.
It does. It totally does.
sure.
Big pink debutante dress. Yeah.
Lots of frills.
The bow. And then I did not have one for the second one.
And that one, for reference, is at the 16-minute and 40-second mark.
Very cool. That leaves Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. What have you got, my friend?
All right, the first one, this is coming in right after Cameron's, but it's another shot at that just tower of monitors. And I liked this one just because it gave you that idea of that overwhelming, that this character, Scratch. Sorry, I'm trying to get my notes back out. This character, Scratch, is really dominating this area. This is something that he's really planning on trying to take over with. So this is a really good picture.
This is his arena, and he is everywhere at once within that arena. Yeah, excellent, excellent choice. Very Big Brother vibes. Very creepy surveillance vibes going on. And your second pick, my friend?
My second pick was just a little bit more fun. I remember when Faye was trying to cram her way into the back of Jet's vehicle, and they were both fighting each other in that tiny little area. But when Ed needs a ride, he's getting strapped to the roof.
Yep.
Not that he minds.
Yeah.
Not that he minds.
Josh, do you want to correct Ricky live, or should we? Just
Oh my God! I will correct myself. I apologize. It's I just get strong androgynous vibes from Ed, and I'm landed on the wrong side.
In the same way that Ed's own flesh and blood does. You're totally good, Ricky D. I couldn't help myself. Just in much the same way that Faye picks her up like a suitcase, she
straps her to the roof.
Checks that bag. Yep, there's no need to bring it with. So I really liked that. And then, maybe a little bit of development to Cameron's point of the softening, because she's riding on the red tail on the way back. She's not quite taped to the hole. So my first choice this week for shot of the show comes at 18 minutes and 14 seconds in the first episode. This is Spike confronting Landis, and to me, this is one of those shots that made somebody look at this show and go, "We gotta do this live action. There has to be a way to translate this into good live action. People are gonna love it." And I mean, I can't wait for this shot. This shot really reminds me of the promo shot of John Cho as Spike, and I'm very excited. And a lot of my shots, if you're not a first-time listener or viewer, you will know, have an explanation of me going, "Spike is so cool." So we're just going to go with that for this one. My second choice this week is from a time code that is 3 minutes and 9 seconds into Hard Luck Woman. And this is a shot of Spike getting ready for the day. He's brushing his teeth. It's morning. This is right before he notices and intones that the girls are indeed gone. With everything that has happened in these last two episodes, with all the change that's happening, with all of the character exits that we're getting, again, the color palette here, just like in The Sunset, is somehow beyond impactful. This is realistic and surreal at the same time. I feel like I've seen this sunrise before, And knowing we only have 2 episodes left, I sort of dubbed this the Sunrise on the end of the series, which is animated by Sunrise Animation. I just realized that. How about that for full circle?
I also appreciate that Spike is encouraging good dental hygiene.
Yeah. He does smoke, but he
does
also
smoke,
brushes
but-
every day.
That's right.
He is probably the healthiest character. We've seen him work out. We've seen him eat all right. Well, maybe not great, but all right, my friends. We have 2 more pieces of business to get to before we can wrap this thing up. And wrap it up we must, because we are going long, which I'm fine with. I love you guys, and I want to say thank you before we go any further to everybody in the live chat and everybody here on the screen with me. Thank you for doing the show with me. I love doing this show.
You're
That having
welcome.
been said, it's time to rate this pair of episodes. So let's stick to the same rotation. Mr. Cameron,
Oh no.
go ahead and set the tone.
Oh, all right. Well, so Brain Scratch. I think whoever wrote this episode had a really good, strong opening. I mean, that opening with the TVs telling the exposition through all the different TV channels was great. The setup was amazing. And I think they had a good, solid ending with like the twist, tropey as it is, but it was solid with like, it was all like a kid in a hospital the entire time. I do feel it got a little muddled in the middle. Like we have the strong kind of culty religious themes, TV themes, but then we're just getting everything else thrown in the middle. Existentialism, the concept of reality, how we control people. It just felt like they took every theme of every sci-fi dystopian movie and threw it in a stew and threw it at the TV to see what stuck. And I not a lot of it stuck for me. Just like Spike and Londis's whole conversation just kind of felt like it just kept jumping all over the place. Now, you bringing up that Londis was always a 13-year-old boy, maybe a little petulant, maybe a little bit angry, that softens it a bit for me. That does make it a little bit more sense. Still not so satisfying. I'm going to go 6.5. 6.5 for Brain Scratch. Yeah, I mean, it's above a 5. I'll watch it. I like it. Great opening. Some really good scenes. I don't think they knew what they wanted to say with the episode, though. Now, Call Me, on the other hand, I did say I had a couple problems with a couple scenes. Doesn't matter because, again, this is just one of those episodes that sticks with you for 20 years. And for everything I always said, I don't have much more to say about it. 9.5 for Hard Luck Woman.
I like it. I like the range. I like the justifications. I like the adjustments based on the conversation. Kind of means the world to me. Let's go ahead and have Josh give his ratings next.
I'm gonna make it quick. 9, 10.
9 and 10.
I mean,
It's
I loved both of these episodes. I really liked the second one more.
Is that your first 10 or is that your second
It's
10?
my second 10. Yeah.
Okay, I know I've also given 2 10s. That's why I ask. So very, very cool.
But yeah, I was I really liked both of these episodes. Originally, I had the first one set as a 10 as well, but again, after discussion and stuff, and after Cameron's negativity, I had to bring it down to a
Aw.
9. So
That's right. I've done something.
I think the term you're looking for is Cameron's objectivity, but I appreciate it.
nope, negativity.
It's negative objection.
Well, Ms. Kylie, what have you brought with yourself this week for your ratings?
I am kind of in the same boat as Josh. I think I'm gonna do a 8 and a 9. Solid episodes. We're getting towards the end, so they're packing in lots of good content. I do agree though with what Cameron said about Brain Scratch. There was a lot of ideas in there that they just kind of threw out there. But other than that, I thought they were both really incredible episodes.
Well, since you've now all given your ratings, and I should have said this before, I would like to point out that all of the extra topics that Cameron brought up, existentialism, how we control people, concept natures of reality, that sort of thing, those are usually tied into how cults control people. And that's kind of, I mean, I'm sure that's why they were there, right? Because he's substituting people's reality against their will, of course. But it's not that, I guess for me, it felt less disjointed. I'm not discounting your point. I'm just saying that I think for me, all those things, for me, all those things are part and parcel with a cult storyline, I guess. So, knowing that I'm not trying to affect anybody else's ratings that have already been given, Ricky D from Best Licks with Ricky D. What are your ratings this week, my friend?
I seem to be at the same consensus as everybody but Cameron. Uh,
Cameron.
I love
I
Butt
think this
Cameron.
might have been our two strongest episodes so far, like that have worked together. I'm going a 9.5 for the first episode, Brain Scratch, and for Hard Luck Woman, I'm gonna go another 10.
Yes.
That's your third 10 or your
I
second
think it's
10?
my second. I think I
Second
just
10.
did Mushroom Samba.
I don't know that we got more than 110 out of you for Firefly Run, did we?
Probably not.
I don't think so. And I know that you're very judicious with them, so I deeply appreciate that.
Yeah, it just the first episode, Brain Scratch, I really enjoyed it. It was great. I think Cameron has some good points about how they didn't flesh out every single thing that came up, but it was still a great episode and it really drew me in. And for Hard Luck Woman, just the emotional impact that it had, and with so few flaws, got to give that one a 10.
Yeah. And if I may, the one of the myriad things that I really like about Cameron's show in particular, is that he never just gives you a point and then says, just cuz, right? Cameron always has reasoning behind it. He's always thought about it. Sometimes I feel like it's hard to listen to Cameron's show because he is significantly more intelligent than me, and I'm like rewinding to make sure I didn't miss deep cuts and sort of thing. So I very much appreciate Cameron's input on and your ratings, and I really like that you took the ratings seriously because we always say we want people to be honest with them. So thank you for doing that.
I don't need you to defend me, Jesse. Keep going, keep going.
I'm not defending you. I just want everybody to know that when I talk about loving you, I'm not just talking about it. So
You're still wrong.
to that point, my rating for the first episode is it's going to be, I think, lower than the rest of the crew, but it's not low. And by the crew, I mean you three regulars. I'm going to put this episode at a 7.5, not because it's, not amazing or anything like that. It's just that for me, I think the point that Cameron was making is sort of seeping in. Not that it's like, oh, now I agree with Cameron. It's more that it's like, oh, I remember all of these pieces. And I have talked a lot before about how all of the putting a million tropes together in one episode doesn't bother me. And it doesn't. But to that point, with 3 episodes left at that point, it almost felt like, okay, but we could have done like maybe something a little bit more character building oriented, or I don't know what my complaint is, but it's very small and I still enjoyed the episode. So I'm going to go 7.5 on that one. And then I can't help myself but give the second episode a 10. To be, I'm a very emotional person, so to be on the verge of tears multiple times in one episode messes with me. I don't think I actually ended up bawling during this episode like I thought I would when I realized what was happening. But that last shot of the big smiley face and bye-bye written in such an innocent, big, childish hand, but also in such an impactful, like, meaningful way just really hit me. So I think I have to give that one a 10. But what that means is that for the first episode, the sudden but inevitable Rebop, plus our favorite guest, I don't want to say that, one of our favorite guests, Cameron, I just don't want anyone else to feel bad, gives the Brain Scratch episode a 33. Oh, sorry. Josh. Yeah, Josh. Oh, Ricky, did you raise your hand? I'm sorry.
Stall? I can stall for you. Heck
you don't
yeah.
have to. I'm sorry. I swear I saw Ricky raise his hand, but I think it was the light pattern behind him. Josh, talk to me about your episode with the host of Made You a Mixtape, please.
Yes, absolutely. I had Jason on from Made You a Mixtape out of Canada. Wonderful, wonderful guy. Wonderful podcast. If you have not checked out his podcast, make sure to go listen to it. It is called Made You a Mixtape. And we had a really fun conversation. It's actually the longest interview that I've done in a while. It was almost 2 hours long. But it was it was great. And if you get a chance to check it out, it's streaming everywhere. Twist My Arm is listened to. So yeah. And I believe everyone gave this a 10 except for Kylie, right? Everyone
I
gave
didn't
that.
give any
Except-
tens.
Well,
Oh, you didn't
so
give a 10, Cameron?
Cameron
God, why are you here?
9.5. I'm sorry.
Cameron gave a higher rating than Kylie did, to be fair. So just really quickly to clarify, I have this piece of paper where I write everybody's ratings down, and I did that, but I wrote them right next to their ratings from the last episode, and then I couldn't tell which episode's ratings were which. So that's definitely on me. But I have it all figured out now for the first session, Brain Scratch, the sudden but inevitable Rebop, plus our friend Cameron gives this episode an 8.1 out of 10, very respectable. And we give the second episode a 9.7 out of 10, which is just, I mean, I think that puts us about where we feel good with that. Callie says it was very emotional. That's definitely an understatement. Emotional is definitely one of the words for it. So, I loved these two episodes, and I think the emotional part of the second episode that we watched, you guys, is the thing that made me start to freak out, because we're really close to the end of this show, and the way that Jet introduces the next episode was, it's been a fast ride for Bebop. It's been a fast ride for us too, you guys. Like, this has been quick. But I want to say thank you for coming with Josh and Kylie, Ricky D. Thank you guys for watching Cowboy Bebop with me. Are you having a blast?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I love Bebop.
Well, Kylie, I know you love Bebop because you're cool, but as long as Josh and Ricky aren't hating it, that's all that matters. And we
I am
know
a
that
little
they're not.
disappointed that I always changed the channel back in the early 2000s when Adult Swim would come on and Cowboy Bebop came on. I was like, yeah, I'm good.
Kicking
So
your younger
I'm
self.
a little mad at myself that 12-year-old me wasn't more interested.
That's fully understandable. But hey, you've got friends that care about you and make sure that you see all the cool stuff. Normally, right here, we would give a bunch of great shout outs. I don't have any this week other than Josh and Kylie and Ricky, like I said, because I'm feeling real excited about this show, and I've had a blast tonight, and I've had a blast the last 2 seasons covering shows with you guys. So thank you, and I want to shout out everybody in our live chat. That's Phil, that's Roy, that's Callie, that's Rosie. You folks are amazing, and I'm grateful to have you. And I want to say thank you again to Cameron, of course, for stopping by. Now, in lieu of my shout out, I would like to have Cameron tell the fine folks out there where they can get a hold of more of him, because I know they want it.
I think I should leave that up to you, Jesse. You can do it better than I can.
If
But-
you'd like to, I can.
Why don't you tell them about Green Shirt?
Green Shirt, of course, hosted by Cameron, is a newbies trek through Star Trek The Next Generation. Cameron and his co-hosts are going through one episode at a time, not like us where they smash everything together. And you can follow Cameron on Twitter at GreenShirt87. You can
I'll
follow
do that
his
part.
show.
That's okay.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
okay.
you can't. I mean, you know it all. Apparently, I just.
Well, look, I'm a fan of the show. That's actually how this all started. So I've listened to every episode. I wait for new episodes to come out. Cameron didn't watch The Next Generation growing up, much
I am
like
the
Josh
newbie.
didn't watch Cowboy Bebop growing up. So his friends are graciously taking him through, much as we are taking Josh through.
Yep.
Give us those tags.
Yeah,
Cameron,
at
and
GreenShirt87
whatever you
will
like.
find us on Twitter. Facebook.com/GreenShirt Podcast is our Facebook. Green Shirt Podcast on Instagram. You can find us on all of those great pod chasers wherever you're listening to this show. You can most definitely find us. We're just about to start season 5. I've been promised there's some amazing episodes coming up, and I'm excited for those. We just put out a bonus recast episode, which I think is a lot of fun, where the 4 of us concoct 4 very different casts for a TNG remake. Not that we endorse that, but the casts themselves are pretty fun to listen to. And then also I'll just bring up Franken Zed is a all puppet zombie horror movie that I helped work on here in Portland, Oregon. It is now on the festival circuit. You can watch the trailer for it at puppetcore.com and see where it's playing, if it's playing anywhere near you. And if you like the trailer, if you think it looks cool, help us create some buzz. We're still looking for distribution for it.
That is very cool. Here's another thing that's very cool. Our friend Roy in the chat, the Intrepid DM, says, This is Cameron from Green Shirt. I watched the first 2 episodes of TNG and the movies because of you and Jesse talking about
Whoa!
your
Oh,
show.
that's right. You are watching it for the first time.
It was very fun. We had a great time. There will be more Star Trek watching. Thank you very much, Cameron. Ricky D from Best Flicks with Ricky D. I feel like I should probably ask you if you have a shout out this week.
Remember when I was trying to find a rival on Twitter or whatever that was?
Oh, yes.
Well, there is a 30 Rock podcast called Good Pod Lemon. You can find them on Twitter at Good Pod Lemon. And I was actually talking to these people before they started their 30 Rock podcast, asking if I could be a guest on their show. And they were saying, well, we're just starting up. We aren't doing guests yet. Let's, well, now they're doing episodes with guests. And I haven't been hit up.
Oh,
Pod
This is
burn.
not a shout out. This is a call out.
Yeah, at Good Pod Lemon. That was a little nasty of you guys. Not appreciating it.
pod
That's a deal
burn, I
breaker.
love that.
You've
Awesome.
incurred the wrath.
Holy cow.
I love it. We will initiate trash
Pod
talking
war?
on your behalf. Yes, sir. We will do that.
Engage.
Miss My Armcast, Kylie, have you got a shout out this week, my friend?
I do not this week, no.
Josh, is there anything you'd like to talk about other than your wonderful chat that you had mentioned with Made You a
Nope.
Mixtape podcast?
That was my shout out for this week.
Big deep breath, you guys. We got a couple more left, you guys. It's gonna be okay. There's gonna be a season 3 of Sudden But Inevitable.
Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, in the live chat, I want to say thank you one more time for joining us and watching and listening out there in podcast land like you do every week. You're just the best. Couldn't do it without you. I also want to thank the crew and Cameron one more time. Thank you guys very much. So, for the Sudden, here's the sign-off order. We'll go Cameron, Ricky, Kylie, Josh. For the Sudden But Inevitable Rebop, I have been Jesse.
I am Cameron. See ya, Space Cowboy.
Ricky D, Best Flicks with Ricky D.
This is Kylie.
And I'm Josh.
This here's Adam Baldwin for the Sudden and Inevitable Rewatch. Signing off. Guess where I'm going to be? Yeah, that's right. I'll be in my bunk.